All right, we should be able to start in just a moment. All right, we should be good to go. Welcome, welcome, everybody. It's been a while, I know. Been a while. Early bird indeed gets the worm. Heard the keyboard clicking, but I didn't know. That's totally reasonable. Totally reasonable. Been a while. All right, let's see who we get today. Oh, let's start the TikTok live stream as well. Good. All right, we should be getting guests here in a minute, but because it's been a while, it might take some time to get some guests. So make sure to, can't copy the Discord link from here. Weird. Toothrot, you don't have to keep religion out of the Discord. Go to the Discord debate channel for religion if you want to discuss religion. That's what it's there for. Can't hear me? Oh, 1 moment. Sorry. There we go. Okay, that should work. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. For some reason, TikTok, whatever, decided to be bad and slow. Yep, we should be all set. Why the break? I was out of town for work. I was on a research collaboration. So I was out of town for 2 weeks. That's all. New topic? Not really new, but if you haven't seen it in a while, I can understand that. Welcome, welcome. How did it go? It went well. We my collaborators and I my collaborators and I started a paper actually surprisingly well. And you know, we proved the result that we wanted to prove. Now we just have to write it up. So that's nice. Oh yes, that is why today's date is October 16th. I should change that. Oops. Let me change that real quick. I forgot. I knew I was missing something. I just didn't know what it was. There we go. Okay, now it should be changed. Great. Great. What's the topic of the paper? It's about Yang Mills and conformal Yang Mills stuff. So nothing, you know, it's kind of just finishing a story. Dina Walker, thanks for becoming a member. By the way, if you guys don't know this, I recently added an extra perk to channel members. So channel members will now have access to the notes that I have for debates. So I have a Google Doc basically that has all of my notes in it for flat earth debates, theism debates, young earth debates, MAGA debates, all of my notes with all of my linked sources and all of that stuff. You know, arguments, counter arguments, and so on. Members now have access to that. It is freely available, not freely available. You have to be a YouTube member. So that's a thing that you guys should consider joining for. Anyway, we'll give it a few minutes. We'll see how the TikTok goes, if we can get some people in here. Also, the YouTube link is working to join via YouTube if you're watching from there. And if nobody shows up, then we'll change topics. Ah, we have a guest. Great, let's talk to somebody. Sean, how's it going?
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning indeed.
Yeah, so I had a question for you. So sorry to disappoint. I'm an atheist. I know you're probably wanting people who disagree.
You're right.
To
respect the live, please. I know that there's no guests in here. That doesn't mean that you get to come in and break the rules. It says join if you disagree. Now, I do, just so you guys don't think I'm like the meanest person in the world, I do have a 2 live streams a week where I take questions. That's on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. I'm happy to take questions on those days. And yeah, so feel free to come on then. I'm happy to answer your questions. Or you can join the Discord server. You can ask questions there. I'm around there. But yeah, those are the appropriate avenues to ask questions. Or you can DM me on TikTok. That's also a great avenue to ask me questions. I answer as long as you don't send me a novel, and the first thing that you send me is not a video, I answer DMs on TikTok. Like if you say, hey bro, I have a question, what is blah blah blah, or can you explain why blah blah blah? Happy to answer that. Discord link is in the link tree in my bio. You can find it there if you're watching on TikTok. If you're watching on YouTube, you can find it in the description down below. We'll give it another 5 minutes. If we don't get any bites, then we'll move on and change topics. Sometimes this topic can be a little bit slow. It's fairly specific. How was Kitty? She was really good today, actually. Surprisingly good. So we'll see. Rare Blitz stream? I usually stream 5 days a week. I've just been out of town for a few weeks. Is it lagging for anyone else? It definitely shouldn't be. I recently upgraded to unlimited data. Unlimited, like, wired data. It should not be lagging for anybody. If it is lagging, that's a problem. It's lagging on YouTube. It's not lagging on TikTok, though. Strange. That I don't understand at all. Not lagging on YouTube. Well, people on YouTube seem to disagree. Okay, well maybe it was just a short hiccup. But I think that we're okay. Give it another minute or so, and if not, then we'll broaden the topic. We'll widen the topic a little bit, just stretch it. Big creationism shutting us down. True. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Do you believe science can explain facial attractiveness to an objective degree, not subjective? I have no idea. We don't have to argue the exact age. You're right, you don't have to argue the exact age. If you think that it's 7,000 years old, you can come up too. Oh yeah, it is lagging. What the? It's simply old versus young. It is old versus young, yeah. Teach us about some Euclidean geometry, whatever. Yeah, that was really funny. I mean, he eventually left, but yeah, what's with the lag on YouTube? That's baffling. Pork, is it a subatomic phenomenon, or is it a Frankie barometer? True. Yeah, I don't know why it's so stuttery. All right, we have a guest. Let's bring him up. I have not read Mirandola. Faceless Prophet, how's it going?
Hey, you remember me?
No, I don't. Have we spoken before?
Yeah, you joined my live once.
When?
I don't know, it was probably sometime several months ago. Anyways, I just wanted to make the statement. It's not that we have to die on a hill on a old versus young earth. There's plenty of Christians that still believe in an old earth. It's not a
I know.
salvific issue.
I know. That's why I'm not. That's why they're not the the goal opposition here. There are plenty of Christians who take science seriously. There are also plenty of Christians who don't. I'm interested in talking to those who don't. At least for this subject.
No, because I lean more towards a young earth, but it's not like I die on a hill for it. It's not like I say, hey, the earth is for sure 6,000 years old, because if you follow the lineage of the Bible, then it has to be 6,000 years old. I mean, the first two verses leaves that in ambiguousness. Like there's no determination of that very first two verses of the Bible. So whether you believe in an old earth paradigm or a young earth paradigm, those are both scientific. For you to just completely shit on the other paradigm.
Are they though?
Yeah, they're both based off of different paradigms, different worldviews.
What's the science that the young earth is based off of?
It's a theistic worldview versus an atheistic worldview.
But you said that it's scientific, right?
Yeah, it's still
So
based in science.
What's the scientific basis?
On a young earth?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you have things like well, I guess you can't use intelligent design in that argument. So if we're just focusing on the age, the scientific things about that, I don't know what's the best angle to take from here. What's the best dimension to approach?
You tell me. You said that there's some scientific stuff here, right?
Yes, but I want to focus on something that we can both agree on. I don't want to just...
Can we both agree that the scientific method is a great way of achieving knowledge about the world?
Absolutely.
Okay, so then what's the scientific basis for the claim that you're making?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that the earth is young. I'm just saying that there is actual science that would help support that argument.
Okay, what is the science?
For a young earth.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So let's just focus on the Methuselah tree. The oldest living organism in the world right now that's still living is the Methuselah tree.
I mean, that's not true.
Oh yeah, it is. That's still living.
That's the oldest tree that we can confirm its age via tree rings, right?
Yes, yeah, precisely.
But there's good evidence that there are far older trees that are still living. There's evidence that there's far older organisms that are still living. They just might be clonal rather than individual trees.
I'm sorry. Well, no, the argument that I'm making is that the oldest dated
the oldest confirmed by tree rings, you mean?
Yes.
Okay, but why are we only using tree rings?
That is about 4,500 years old.
Why are we only using tree rings?
We're not only using tree ring.
Well, then why can't we use other pieces of data?
No, well, you asked me to present a piece of data, so I'm just focusing on one specific thing.
Right. So how does that point to the Earth being young? What's the science there? What's the science there? How does that point to the Earth being young?
Yes, the correlation is that if this tree, the oldest organism that's still living, is 4,500 years old, and the flood happened about 4,500 years ago, according to, these people that are backtracking all of the different dates, then it would corroborate with the fact that there was a global cataclysmic event. The only thing that I have issue with is putting dates on anything that happened in the past. Because, I mean...
You have an issue with putting dates on anything that happened with the past?
Yes, because, let me give you an example. I acknowledge Graham Hancock with his findings with the Younger Dryas period.
You shouldn't. Nobody in the archaeological community acknowledges what he does is serious.
I don't care about the archaeological community. I just care about looking at the evidence.
Okay,
So
have you
when
looked
we
at all
look-
the evidence that the archaeological
Hold on, man.
community
Hold
has
on, just-
presented
let me-
in conflict with what Graham Hancock presents?
Yeah, let me just say this, okay? All I'm
That
trying
sounds
to
like
say,
a...
all I'm trying to say is that Graham Hancock is saying that the Younger Dryas period, 11 to 12,000 years ago, was when this
That's great.
was
Yeah.
when this was when this global cataclysmic event took place.
Mm-hmm.
However, I'm not married to the 11 to 12,000 date. The only thing that I'm married to is that sometime in our distant past, a global cataclysmic event happened. So, I mean, in
And why do you think that?
conversation, it's always about finding common ground. I might not agree with him fully on everything, but the evidence that he presented, at the very least, would corroborate with the fact that there was indeed a global cataclysmic event that took place
Yeah, so
in our distant past.
just to be clear, have you looked at the evidence that like actual archaeologists have examined and presented that contradict Graham Hancock's claims?
Yeah, I actually listened to a very prestigious archaeologist come on to Joe Rogan's podcast and then talk about.
Do you get your information from Joe Rogan and Joe Rogan alone, or?
No, I didn't. And one, the information didn't come from Joe Rogan. It came from the archaeologist.
No, I'm familiar. I know exactly what you're talking about. But if the only way that you're evaluating claims is by what you see on Joe Rogan, it's just not a great look.
Look, that's not the point that's being made.
Okay, what's the point?
Yeah, the point that's being made is that Joe Rogan platforms individuals, and he happened to platform this archaeologist, the guy that you're making such an appeal to authority on.
Oh no, I'm appealing to archaeologists. Do you know that?
Yeah,
I'm not appealing to like a single guy.
Okay, bro, stop
You
playing
recognize the difference?
semantics like a little
This isn't
child,
semantics.
bro.
You're misrepresenting my view, right?
I meant archaeologist, bro. You're trying to say.
So why are you appealing to a single conversation with a single archaeologist on Joe Rogan?
It wasn't a single conversation. It was two separate conversations.
Oh, I'm sorry, two conversations on Joe Rogan.
Yes, because the archaeologist came on and he debunked Graham Hancock's findings, and then Joe Rogan offered a platform for them to both come on, and I listened to both sides, and frankly, the archaeologist, the professional in the field, sounded like a complete ass, just like you. You sound like a complete ass.
To be clear, the way that you evaluate the evidence is by who sounds meaner?
No, bro.
And then you disagree with them?
Actual evidence, bro. This is why you got eaten alive on my life. All right, have a nice day, bro. Peace.
Did I?
Jesus loves you.
I'm sure. That was a pretty fast crash out, but we'll take it. We will take it. Now, by the way, I don't actually understand why the YouTube stream is behaving the way it is. I'm going to try to fix something. It says the stream's current bitrate is lower than the recommended rate. I don't understand why. I'll bring up another guest in just a moment. I want to fix the stream first. Let me double check and see what's going on, because it is kind of frustrating. Is it still being an issue for you guys on YouTube? So it seems like I'm sending okay, so YouTube Live is messed up. Okay, so it looks like it's actually just is it the vertical stream that's messed up right now? It might just be the vertical stream. Let me check. Yeah, it's the vertical stream. I'm gonna restart the vertical stream really quick, but I'll be right back, okay? So vertical stream should be... Okay, trying to turn off vertical stream. I don't know why it's not turning off, but go off. Okay, vertical stream should be off. I'm going to turn it back on. Hopefully that'll fix it. I don't know what else. You could go to the horizontal stream. The horizontal stream seems to be not having an issue, even though it's low resolution. let's bring on another guest. Alan, how's it going?
Yes, I'm good, thank you.
How old do you think the Earth is?
I'm a Christian.
That doesn't answer my question.
Yeah. I'm arriving. No worries.
Well, but how old do you think the Earth is?
I think that the Earth. I think that.
You're cutting out there, Alan.
Says, and I don't know which church says that is 6,000 years old. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, I can. So, Alan, how old do you think the Earth is? I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, I think that is around 4.5 billions. I think
Okay.
I have some
Thanks for being here.
signal issues, but I will.
Kyore, how's it going?
What's up, bro? I just think you're a demonic fuck who's retarded, bro. And you know what I'm
You
saying?
can't say slurs here.
You want everybody to believe that
this is the most Christian
the devil is
Christian,
real, bro.
y'all.
You don't believe in Jesus, you should seek help. You retarded.
You can't say slurs, my guy.
That was interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah, right. Johnny, how's it going?
Great. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. How old do you think the Earth is, Johnny?
So I have no clue, and I don't think anybody does. I had this conversation with a gentleman a few days ago. Young guy, I can't remember his name, but my question to you guys that just have wholeheartedly fallen into science, right? You think science is truth. You think science is an
effective way of figuring out what's true about the world? Yeah, sure.
Exactly. Would you agree that the scientific consensus in the past has gotten things wrong?
Sure.
What makes you think that the age of the Earth is the correct fact?
So generally, I mean, we can kind of think of it like two different periods of time, right? So prior to about the 1900s, there was science, and the science that they were doing was basically like, what happens if I mix these two test tubes, and then I'm going to write it down in fancy language and send it off to my friends. That was like how science worked. Come the early to mid 1900s, science very much became a kind of a lot more rigid, right? There became standard ways of doing statistical analysis. There became standard ways of analyzing data. There became standard ways of, running your experimental tests. All of these things kind of became standardized. Replication became standardized, etc. So this is to say, we've gotten better at doing science in the last 100 years or so.
Absolutely, I agree.
And it's not just that we're more correct about what the science is. It's that we've gotten better at making sure that we're not going to be incorrect in the future. So I would say that, yeah, I mean, if you look at the science of like the 1800s or the 1700s or whatever, or even the early 1900s, like there's a lot of stuff that they're going to get wrong just because they weren't really doing it in like a really like robust way. But we do now.
Do you think 1,000 years from now, people are going to look back in 2025 and say, you know what were they doing back then? What were the scientists thinking in 2025?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
So you think from
at least to an extent.
Point where science is fact.
Science is a method, right? It doesn't make sense to say that science is fact. What is true is I think that we've gotten to the point where there are things that we don't understand, and we know that we don't understand them. We don't have an explanation for XYZ thing. There are also, of course, probably things that we don't know that we don't understand, but there are also things that we do know that we do understand, and those things we can be pretty confident in, right? We can look at many different branches of data or branches of science that all produce data that point to the same conclusion. And when that happens, you should definitely believe it. That's like the most likely answer to be true. If we take your worldview, then we can't. Then there's no reason to believe anything.
Well, to be fair, the scientific consensus in the year 350 BC was that the world was flat, right? That was the scientific consensus.
There wasn't science in 350 BC.
There was absolutely science back then.
There was not.
So tell me the date that science was started.
I mean, definitely not in 350 BC. Some would argue that like the beginnings, like proto-science, started with say that. Please, Johnny, you asked me a question.
1,000 years before Christ.
So some people would say that like proto-science started to emerge with the Islamic Golden Age in like the 900s, like medieval Islam. But Western European science, which is what you and I usually think of as science, like people in lab coats with beakers and stuff, that really started in like the 1600s or so in Europe.
That's not true, man. I would.
Well, what do you think science is then?
Well, science is a method, right? You already explained that, and
Yeah.
I'm glad you explained that.
So can you give me an example of like people doing science, like in the same like the method that we did 2,000 years ago?
I am not the expert on science, right? I majored in finance. I took a few science classes. I know very little. I'm not a scientific expert. But what I did learn in those science classes that I took is that science is always open for interpretation. It's always open for new ideas. It's always open for changing, right? Before Darwin's theory of evolution, there was no theory of evolution. Now we've adopted Darwin's theory.
There were theories of evolution before. Those theories were different, and they didn't stand up to the scientific scrutiny, so we didn't accept them.
Sure. And we've applied that same standard to today's science, right? Which you're going to tell me the Earth is 5 billion years old. You don't know that for
4.5 billion years old. Huh? I don't know what you mean by for a fact. Like, do you know for a fact that the sun will rise tomorrow? Like, I mean, I would say that, like, yeah, I'm like pretty certain that the sun will rise tomorrow, but like, I can't guarantee that, right?
Okay, well, then we can get into, the reality discussion and what's real and what's not. And I think that's disingenuous to move the goalpost there.
No, I'm not moving the goalpost. The point is it seems like you're demanding 100% certainty, right?
Well, that's what you're saying when you say that the
I'm
Earth
not
is
saying that. No, I'm saying that I have a high degree of certainty. I don't think that we can be 100% certain about really anything, and I think that that's okay. I'm not 100% certain that the sun will rise tomorrow. I'm also not 100% certain that the Earth is 4.5 billion years old, but I'm very, very confident in both of those facts.
Okay.
So much so that I would call them facts.
And your confidence, as a scientist or a person that follows science, your confidence is open to interpretation, right? So tomorrow
I don't know what it means for confidence to be open to interpretation.
Okay, well,
confidence is like a state of being that someone has with respect to propositions or claims.
Tomorrow there could be a new scientific exploration somewhere, and we have discovered that the Earth is only 1 billion years old, right?
Yeah, and tomorrow somebody could find Jesus's body and show that Jesus never resurrected. Like, yeah, like we could speculate. We could speculate about all sorts of things. The question is what's likely to happen and what's likely to be true.
Then that's a valid question, right? So the difference here is my views are, as a Christian, my views are based in faith, right? My views,
yeah, of course they are, absolutely.
Yeah, my views are based in faith. Yours are not. Yours are based off of years and years of scientific consensus that human beings have come together and said, "Hey, this is
based on evidence."
Okay, it's based on evidence.
Years and years of accumulated evidence, right?
The evidence in the year 600 BC was that the Earth was flat, and we know now that it's not. So science is ever changing.
To be clear, it wasn't science in 600 BC.
Whatever.
They weren't doing science. They looked out at the ground and like, looks flat to me, and then they just said it was flat. There's no science there. There's no analysis there. There's no rigorous testing of hypotheses there.
Let me see if I can think of a better example. Would you agree that nuclear science is more advanced now than it was, say, in the 80s?
Nuclear, like with regards to like fission and like nuclear reactors? Yeah, sure. Yeah,
nuclear reactors and things like that. So Chernobyl was a drop in the was a mistake that we made, the scientific community made, right?
It wasn't a mistake regarding the scientific claims, no.
No?
This was a bureaucratic issue.
Okay, do you think that nuclear reactors in 2025, if they just built a brand new nuclear reactor in Washington, D.C., it's going to supply the D.C. metro area with power, would you agree that that is a safer nuclear reactor than a one that was built in 1970?
Yeah, sure.
Right.
We have better regulation. We have better regulations. We have better engineering.
Better
all sorts of things.
Whatever the case may be. We also understand the science better, right?
The science of nuclear reactors hasn't really changed much. Now there are new nuclear reactor types that are being developed. Exactly. As far as I know, they're not in production yet. These are things like thorium, or what are they called? Molten salt nuclear reactors. These are still like we're working out engineering kinks. Sure. There's things like thorium reactors. These are still, I think that there's prototypes in China, but yeah, like the actual like details of like what happens in a nuclear reactor, like that's all been pretty well understood since the 50s or so. What you're talking about are engineering problems.
Okay, engineering problems. Well, I mean, engineers would probably classify themselves as scientists.
They shouldn't, because they're not.
Well, ask Bill Nye, and I'm sure he's going to disagree. But what my point is that science isn't perfect from the start, right? It's always changing.
Nobody ever said it was.
The nuclear. Okay. So since you agree to that point, what makes you believe that the Earth isn't 6,000 years old? How do you know?
Because we have an
our
overwhelming
interpretation
amount of data that contradicts that claim.
Okay, and
right?
what if tomorrow the data changes, just like it did for the nuclear reactors between 1980 and now?
This is a category error that you're making. Data didn't change between the 1980s and now.
What changed?
We just got better at building things.
Okay, what if we get better at determining the age of the Earth tomorrow?
Then we'll have better precision. Right.
And
that doesn't change what the value is. It changes the error rate, right?
Okay,
when you make measurements, you'll say, oh, it's, if you measure the age of a tree, say, it'll be like, oh, it's like 30 years old plus or minus 2 years. But if you are better at measuring the age of the tree, it'll be 30 years old plus or minus 2 months, right?
Okay. Well, the claim that you're making in the prompt is that Earth isn't 6,000 years old.
Right.
When the reality of it is you have no clue. You don't know if it's 6,000 years old. You don't know if it's 5 billion years old.
It depends on what you mean by no, but yeah, I would say that I know that's 4.5 billion years old.
You don't know that it's 4.8 billion years old. You don't know this 4.7
I would say it's 4.5 or 4.54 or so.
I see with science, and I wholeheartedly believe in science. I try to do my best.
It sounds like you're doing science denial, though. Like you
No,
say
I'm
that
not
you
doing
believe in
science
science, but
denial.
you're right now doing science denial.
I think a true scientist would agree with me that science is always up for interpretation.
No,
In the year 1500,
science has
there
nothing
was
to
no
do with
dinosaurs
interpretation.
Or in the year
Science has nothing to do with interpretation, right?
Absolutely.
Science has to do with data analysis. Science has
And
to do
how
with
we interpret
experimentation
it.
and observation.
And how we interpret
No.
it.
The whole business of science is to remove personal bias, to remove interpretational lenses from the actual data, and stay firmly tied to empirics. That's the whole business of what science is about. It's about getting rid of interpretation, because that's how you end up with, the Earth is flat because it definitely looks flat to me.
Okay, but we already established that science has improved vastly over time,
Yeah,
right?
and so the whole business of science is getting rid of any interpretational bias. That's the whole business.
If you show me a set of numbers, a data set, right? How can I interpret that without any sort of...
The point is you don't interpret it. You use rigorous statistical analyses to either confirm or reject a hypothesis.
Okay, and like I said, the data sets you can't... So all I do is look at the numbers and say, yep, this is it. I don't have any no human influence there.
If you're doing science properly, what you've done before you've collected any numbers is you have made a hypothesis. You have established what that hypothesis will predict your data outcome would be after you run your experiment, after you make your observations, and then you will compare using statistical methods. These are things like linear regressions, chi-squared, any sort of statistical method you want. You can go find them in a statistics textbook, and then you compare your data with the predictions using those statistical methods. You don't rely on interpretation. You don't rely on, oh well, it kind of looks right to me. No, you do statistics, and then you either reject the hypothesis and you verify or confirm the hypothesis. That's just how it works.
So you agree that we don't know what the age of the Earth is?
No, I don't agree with that at all.
And tomorrow there could be new evidence that the Earth is 2,000 years old.
No, I don't think that that's the case.
You don't think that that's the case? Why not? What evidence do you have to support that the Earth is 6,000 years old?
I don't have any evidence to support the idea that the Earth is 6,000 years old.
Okay, what evidence do you have to support that it's 5 billion years old?
Well, the evidence is that it's 4.5 or 4.54, plus or minus 50 million years or so. I can give you the evidence if you want.
Plus or minus 50? That's a big. It's
about 1%.
Yeah, that's a lot.
1% error is a lot.
I mean, if we're going to say, yeah, the Earth was started this many years ago, sure. I mean, we could say it's 150 trillion years old, right? We could say it's 150 trillion years old, plus or minus a percent.
Well, you could say that, but you wouldn't have any evidence to back it up, right?
Right. You don't have the evidence.
The point is as we get better at doing science, as we collect better and better data, our error range will narrow. It used to be that our error range was in the billions of years. Like we didn't know how old the Earth was, plus or minus a few billion years. We've narrowed it down quite a lot. This is still, it's still a scientific process. We still have better data to collect, and that will narrow our error bars subsequently.
Right? It's an ongoing process. So tomorrow we might
those error bars are going to continue to shrink and shrink and shrink as we get better and better data.
And then one day we'll just have a date, right? We'll have a date. The Earth started on September 3rd.
I suspect probably not. I mean, like the difference between 4.5 billion years old and a single day is like 1 part in a trillion, and that level of accuracy is very, very rare in science.
I agree. I totally agree.
So I mean, if somebody invented time machine, like maybe, but I just don't think that that's, I don't think that that's necessary, nor do I think it's plausible.
I think it's just a little disingenuous to claim that the Earth isn't a certain age, right?
But we can rule it out. Like, for example, we have have crystals that are older than
probably what 35 years old, probably around the same age as me. Okay,
so
yeah,
we have crystals that are older than 6,000 years old.
You and I can rule out that the Earth is older than 35, right? Since we are that age.
Can we?
Right.
I mean, generally, I would agree. Yeah, like the Earth is definitely at least 32 years old because I'm 32. But look, we can just go look at other older things, right? The way that we get, this is actually a great method, right? You and I can rule out that the Earth is 32 years old,
right?
Or that the Earth is younger than 32 years old. Fine. Mm-hmm. But we could also go talk to our grandparents if they're still alive.
Absolutely.
And then we could rule out that the Earth is younger than 80 years old or 90 years old, whatever it might be. But there aren't many people who are older than that. But what we can do is we can go look at documents, right? We can go look at documents that have the date written on them. So if you go look at I don't know, the Magna Carta or something, the Magna Carta, I think, has a date written on it. And
or the Gutenberg Bible, or whatever.
Any of these things that have the dates, and then we can look at those. And then there are documents that not all documents have dates written on them, especially older ones. But we can figure out how old they are based off of the things that they mention, right? Like if you see a document that talks about Jesus, for example, then that document probably happened after Jesus was alive and then crucified, right? So, and if you see a document that talks about the Babylonian exile of the Jews or something, then you can probably infer that document was written around that time, and so you can say, oh well, that must have been 2,000 years ago, 2,500 years ago. That we can rule out that it's younger than that, and then not everything was written down, but we can instead go study when things were made by looking at what they were made from, right? We can look at how much erosion has happened. We can just keep going back using evidence, right?
99 years, right?
Sorry?
Let's say we go back to 5,999 years, right?
To be clear, I wasn't done. The point is that you're okay using evidence establishing how old something is, except when it comes to using the scientific method to do the same. Anyway, go ahead.
Because it's flawed.
The scientific method is flawed.
Well, no, I didn't say that. I said that the method that you and I are currently engaging in is flawed.
Okay, where's the flaw?
Well, like you just said, we can't go back. Documents are old, right? We can only go back to where humans were, right? We can only go back to the earliest writings.
Why do we need to rely on writings? We can figure out how old things are without relying on things that were written down.
How can we do that?
There are known, you might call them chronometers that appear naturally, right? Like, for example, trees have growth rings, right? So if we can count growth rings, that doesn't involve human writing at all, and we can figure out how old that tree is.
So there was a scientific consensus at one point that each ring on this tree is 1 year of growth, right?
No, this is something that we can experimentally test, right? We can just grow a tree. We have a prediction that each year the tree will gain 1 additional ring, and then we can just grow a bunch of trees, and then we know when we planted them, and then just cut them down and measure how many growth rings there are, and then confirm the confirm the hypothesis, right?
And by your logic, all trees are the same from the existence of Earth, right?
This is the business of how we do science, right? We have a hypothesis, and then we test the hypothesis. Now, of course, not all trees are the same. But what we can do is we can think about why might it be the case that trees generally all have this growth ring pattern, and if the conditions to produce those growth rings are consistent, then we would expect the growth ring hypothesis to hold true. Now, the reason why the growth rings happen, my understanding, I'm not a botanist, the reason why they happen is that there's seasonal changes. So during spring they grow faster, and during fall and winter they grow slower, and so you get a difference in density during the growth periods. During the high growth period, it's less dense than in the slow growth period, it's more dense or something like that. And so as long as there are seasons, one would expect that growth rings would be a consistent way of dating something, right?
That is one way that we could look in the past and try to date things, yes.
Okay, and would you say that is flawed?
Yes, because before humanity, we don't know how. Because before humanity, we don't know how trees grew.
Well, look, understanding, do you think that the understanding of how tree rings grow now is incorrect? Do you think that it doesn't have anything to do with yearly seasonal changes?
No, I think what we see now, here in this present reality, I think what we see now, that's a good observation that, okay, this tree, for every year on our calendar, it gets a new ring. Sure, we can make that.
Do you think that is not? Do you think that was not true in the past?
We don't know. That's my argument. We don't. You and I do not know because we weren't there. We didn't experience it. No humans were there in the year one.
To be clear, were you there? Were you there? I don't know, during the Revolutionary War.
No, but it's
you
well
didn't experience it. Okay, but how do you know? How do you know that actually happened? You weren't there.
Because there was human experience there.
How do you know? You weren't there.
Because there was human experience, and
no, how do you know there was human experience there?
From generation to generation to
generation.
How do
you know there was human experience there?
It's well documented in human history.
Oh, okay. So because somebody wrote it down, that's enough for you?
Yes.
Oh, okay. But when somebody writes down,
can I ask you what your research is in? I'm just curious. I'm sorry.
I'm a physicist.
Okay.
But look. So you trust that somebody wrote something down, but you don't trust that there were seasons 10,000 years ago?
Well, I don't know. I wasn't alive 10,000 years ago. Do you think that there was ever a period on this earth where there weren't seasons?
Maybe about 4.5 billion years ago.
Okay, yeah. So there was a period. You agree? There was a period where there was no. So if there was no seasons, how do you know the trees grew the same way?
Trees didn't exist 4.5 billion years ago.
Okay, so let's say whenever the first tree was, I don't know. You're the scientist. You can educate.
Like a few 100 million years ago was the first tree.
A few 100 million years ago.
Yeah, there were seasons.
Okay, the first tree comes about on Earth, right?
Mm-hmm. Woody trees.
Woody trees. Okay, the first woody tree is on the Earth's surface. How can you tell me that tree, for what did we say, 100 million, 150 million years ago? How can you show
a few 100 million years ago, something like that? Okay. Yeah.
How can you prove to me that tree grew the same way that a tree grows in 2025?
Because there were still seasonal changes. Unless you don't think that there were seasons, then we can understand and reasonably infer that there would be seasonal changes.
Okay, but we established that before that first tree there was no seasons, right?
No, we didn't establish that. There were no seasons like 4.5 billion years ago, likely because the Earth wasn't tilted on its axis yet. Okay. And that's speculation. Who knows if that's true?
It absolutely is speculation.
It very well could be the case that there were seasons 4.5 billion years ago. I'm not
my point.
I'm not
it's
super
speculation.
To be clear, Johnny, I'm speculating. I'm not saying that the scientific consensus is speculating. I just don't know about what the consensus is on when the Earth's tilt started. I suspect that the idea is that the Earth's tilt started when Theia smashed into the proto-Earth and, tilted it. And that would have been about 50 million years after the Earth formed. But
I think science does a lot.
But yeah, so before trees existed, there would have still been seasons, right?
Okay. Well, would you agree that there was a point in Earth's history where there was no seasons?
Not when there was life on Earth, no.
Okay, so before there was life on Earth, we don't know how things happened here, right?
So I personally don't know. I could look it up for you right now, and I could go find the sources for the scientific consensus, and I could give you a more definitive answer. I just personally don't know. I haven't looked into when seasons started.
The gentleman I spoke with a few days ago, he was under the impression that the universe has always existed.
Okay.
Does that sound familiar to you?
Is that me?
No, it wasn't you.
Okay. Why are you bringing him up then?
I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on it.
I'm pretty agnostic about the age of the universe, whether it's always existed or whether it had a first moment. It seems kind of irrelevant. But look.
So you're agnostic about the universe's existence. However,
I'm agnostic about whether the universe began to exist. About whether the universe had a first moment or whether it's always existed. These are two separate questions. It's unrelated to whether the universe began to exist.
You can relate.
But Johnny, please don't pivot. I'm still baffled by the fact that you don't understand that so long as there are seasons, we can use tree ring data.
Why does that baffle you? I mean, you just admitted.
It's baffling because do you see that there's like a direct connection between the existence of seasons and the existence of tree rings?
Sure. In 2025, absolutely.
Do you think that that correlation just suddenly appeared out of nowhere?
I don't know how the Earth evolved. I wasn't there 160 million years ago.
Can you use your noodle and figure out that when things grow faster, they're going to grow differently than when things grow slower?
Hold on. Say that again.
Can we agree that when things grow faster, they grow differently than when things grow slower?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Now, when there's water, trees can grow, right?
Not necessarily, but yeah, some trees. I mean, all life form need water.
All trees need water.
Right.
Generally, trees grow more. Do we agree that generally trees grow more when there's water than when there's not water?
I'm not scientifically privy to the trees that grow in deserts and dry climates, but I would, yeah, I mean, where I live, especially, we can see that when
on
it rains
most of Earth, most trees grow more when it's wet than when it's dry.
Sure, absolutely.
So if there's seasonal variations between wet and dry, which is a thing that seasons do, presumably, as long as there's seasons and there's trees, there will be differences in growth behavior on a yearly basis.
From the observations that we've made since humanity has been observing these things, yes, I would agree that those observations can be
Do you
made.
think that those observations just fail to be reasonably reasonable? You know,
No, I think
prior to
they are
humans
reasonable.
were observing this.
I think they are reasonable as for
Okay.
humanity. Yes.
So
right
it's,
now.
oh wait,
in the past,
so prior
however
to
many years
humans
ago.
observing this, do you think that it would be unjustified to say that this is the case, that trees still underwent these growth cycles?
My answer is I don't know because we have no evidence.
I'm asking, do you think it's reasonable to make this inference?
From a personal standpoint, it's probably reasonable. Yes.
Okay.
However, you and I do not know, nor will we ever know.
I don't know. When you say no, do you mean like with 100% certainty?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know anything with 100% certainty?
Yes, I have
Like what?
the things that, like I know my backyard has grass in it.
Are you there right now?
I'm looking at it. Yes.
Okay, sure. Do you know that your backyard had grass yesterday
Yes.
with 100% certainty? How do you know?
Because I was there.
How do you know that you were there? How do you know it's not a fabricated memory?
Because I'm living in reality. I understand when I wake up in the
Well,
morning.
it could
I
be a
put-
fabricated memory, right? What if when you woke up this morning, it was the first time you ever woke up, and all of the memories you have are fake?
Then that's a separate reality than what I have been raised in.
Okay, so you don't know with 100% certainty.
No, I
You're
do.
just very, very certain.
We're playing semantics here. I mean,
This isn't semantics. This is a very
Who-
serious
who
issue
says
with the
that
view
you and
that
I
you're
are having a
holding.
conversation right now? I mean, do you think you and I are having a conversation right now?
I don't hold myself to a
engaging in
100% certainty, definition of knowledge. So I'm not I'm not on the
Well,
hook
the Earth
for
could be 6,000 years old.
I'm not on the hook for defending against solipsism, like epistemological
so the Earth
solipsism.
could
You
be
are.
6,000 years old.
Please don't
what you're
pivot. Please
I'm
don't
not
pivot.
pivoting. I'm proving
Look,
a point.
So do you agree that it could be the case that the memories that you have of yesterday were implanted this morning and they never actually happened?
I don't agree to that. No.
Okay, then how is that impossible?
How is what impossible?
How is it impossible that that couldn't be the case? Or sorry, how is it impossible that that could be the
Because
case?
I lived yesterday. I
So no,
experienced.
you have memories of yesterday, right?
I have the reality, the lived experience of yesterday.
You have, and what are lived experiences aside from memories?
I woke up. I saw with my eyes the grass in my backyard.
And
know
these
that
are
it was
all these are all memories from yesterday?
there. Sure. I mean, if you
Okay.
don't call them memories,
And so,
I would
and
call
so
it
can
lived
memories be
experience.
false?
Yeah, I'm sure people's memories can be false. Absolutely.
Okay, so how do you know that yours aren't with 100% certainty?
Because I lived it. Because I understand what my reality is.
That's the thing in contention. You have memories of living it, but if those memories are false, then you didn't actually live it, right?
Okay, man, you got me. My whole life has just been a series of.
I don't look. You are
Contested memories.
justified. You are justified in believing that all of your memories are at least reasonably accurate, right? You have great justification, but you don't have 100% certainty. This is why I don't think that we should rely on 100% certainty for anything. Because if you dig deep enough,
with
you'll
my
come
question-
to
my question
find that
is-
you're not certain about anything. You're just very, very confident in a lot of things.
You're making the claim that we can't be certain about anything as humans, right? Then how can you tell me the Earth isn't 6,000 years old? Which is what your prompt
Because
says.
I'm very, very
which is
confident
the
that
reason
it's
I
not.
don't engage with you.
Yeah, because when I say the Earth isn't 6,000 years old, what that means is I have a high degree of confidence that that Earth being 6,000 years old is false.
So we can agree that you'll change the prompt to, with a high degree of certainty, the Earth isn't 6,000 years old.
If people could read more, then yeah, I would, but I'm not going to. Because
so
people
you don't
can't
know.
read more.
The point of my argument is you don't know that
I
it's not
define knowledge not as 100% certainty. I'm a fallibilist about knowledge. I don't think that knowledge means 100% certainty. I think knowledge means a high degree of confidence.
Okay, well,
And there's other
especially
features too, but
as a
knowledge, I
Christian,
don't think
and
knowledge has anything to do with
Christians
100%
get
certainty.
bad raps for this, but the view from a lot of Christians is that the scientific community is 100% certain on their claims, which what I would say, as somebody that has very minimal knowledge of science, is not.
Why would
the
you
case.
believe the Christians, who generally are science deniers, about science?
Well, first off, to make that claim is insane to me. To say that Christians
so
are generally
presumably,
climate or scientific deniers
you're right.
is a wild claim.
So
that's not true at all.
No. So you're right. So what I mean is the Christians who are making the claim that, oh, science is 100% certain that the Earth is 4.5 billion years old. Those people are generally science deniers, because those are the people who are saying, yeah, but science is wrong. Science is 100% certain, but they can't be 100% certain about anything. Like, that's the group I'm talking about. You're right. I overgeneralized.
Well, I agree, and those people are misled.
That's what you're doing.
In their thinking. No, that's not what I'm doing at all. I'm open-minded. As a Christian.
You're open-minded. Are you open-minded to evidence that showing that the Earth is older than 4.5 billion years old?
Absolutely.
Okay. Have you looked into any of it? Because I can tell you about it.
Well, I've seen a little bit on the ice record, or the Antarctic ice sheet and those things. But
like
however,
ice cores? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, ice cores. I've looked into a little bit of that. Obviously, you probably have far better knowledge on it than I do. However, my view from science is that I as a Christian, I have faith in my beliefs through Christianity, right? Whether it's from the Bible, huh?
You said your view on science, and then you pivoted to talking about your faith in Christianity.
Well, I'm explaining my argument. My view on science is that we don't know, right? You weren't there 6,000 years ago. I wasn't there 6,000 years ago. We don't know. When the Bible says the earth was created in 7 days, do you know what a day was to God? Do you know what
it uses the same word that is used to
our
refer
language,
to?
right? It uses
Well,
our
it
language.
uses the same word that is used to refer to like individual days, like of the week and stuff like that. So presumably, whoever was writing it was meaning it in the same way.
Right, and we can both agree that the Bible was written by human beings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was divinely influenced. You probably think it was just some made up stuff. That's where our difference is. However, it doesn't affect my thoughts on science, and it shouldn't affect your views on religion or your views on.
To be clear, your view on science is we can't believe anything because you weren't there.
No, I didn't say that.
So
my view on science is that the scientific community changes their beliefs over time. It's very evident. I mean,
okay. So what? So how does that lead you to the conclusion? How does that?
In 1901, when the Industrial Revolution was started,
Johnny, suppose that's true, that the scientific community changes its beliefs over time. How does that inform how you evaluate the claims of scientific consensus regarding the past?
Because I've seen that in the past they've gotten things wrong.
No, I'm asking. So, okay, suppose that's true. What does that mean about how you evaluate their claims? Do you say, oh, well, if they got things wrong in the past, therefore we can't trust them now? Or is it, they got things wrong in the past, but they were using less robust methods, and they're using more robust methods now, so we can trust them better?
And 1,000 years from now, there's going to be a lot more robust.
Can you answer my question, please?
I'm sorry, ask it again.
Yeah, so given the case, we're just granting this for the sake of argument, that science has gotten a lot of stuff wrong in the past, or that science has changed its views a lot in the past, how does that inform how you how seriously you take the claims of scientific consensus today?
Well, I try to do my own research, right? I try to.
That doesn't answer my question.
How does that? I mean, I don't know how else to answer it.
So let's say that you go to a scientific conference on, I don't know, geology, right? Some random science. And then you listen to all the talks, and then you come to the conclusion that all of these scientists together, like they all differ in their views slightly, because scientists are people, but like the general consensus is that XYZ rock formation in Utah formed 90,000 years ago.
Right.
That's you come to that conclusion that that's their views. Maybe you don't, whether or not you believe it, that's a different question. But that's the consensus of the scientific community. How do you evaluate whether or not you should believe that consensus?
Well, there's really no metric that I have to determine that these scientists were correct in their assumptions.
However, no metric.
There's no metric. I can't
metric. It's impossible to tell. There's no tests that you can run. There's no data that you can analyze. There's no observations you can make to establish whether or not that's true.
No, because like you said, human beings.
What do you mean no? That's the whole scientific business.
The human beings are human beings, right? We make mistakes. We don't know. We don't know things. What if the next conference that I went to found that this rock formation in Utah was only 20,000 years old? Who do I believe?
You would believe the geologists. That's
Which
who you
geologists
believe.
do I believe? Which geologists?
So in your hypothetical world, presumably you would believe the later ones.
Why?
Which because they would be informed on the earlier consensus, and they would be like, oh well, we can establish that earlier consensus was based off of this incorrect piece of data or whatever it is.
Okay.
So you generally want to lean towards the more recent consensus because the more recent consensus is informed by the earlier consensus.
Okay, well, let's say the 20,000-year-old census is the newer consensus.
But look, the question is, why is it that you think that there's no way that we can know anything about the truth of these claims?
I didn't say there was no way. I said, as from
you
what
sure?
I know.
Do you want to replay the clip?
Well, okay. There's no way that we can for certain say we'll use.
But why do we care about for certain? Why can't we just say we have a high degree of confidence that this is the case? That's how we form beliefs.
You should understand that science is up for interpretation.
No, it's not. You're making that mistake again.
And 1,000 years from now, maybe we'll see that the Earth was 6,001 years old. You don't know because you can't read the future. You can't read the past. You're a human being just like me. The difference we have here is
So to be clear, you don't think that there's any way that we can actually, like today, there's no way that we can actually test whether or not a claim about the past is true?
I think we have certain methods that we can use to make certain assumptions about the past. Yes.
Sorry, those methods do what now?
Make assumptions.
So you don't think that there's any methods to test whether certain claims about the past are true?
I'm not. I would argue that there probably is. I don't know of any. I mean, I'm not a scientist, like I said. I don't know that I can point you.
So do you think that the scientific method is useful?
In certain instances,
do you think that it is helpful to come to true conclusions about the way the world is, the way the world will be, or the way the world was?
In certain things, yes. I think science is
okay. So
beneficial.
When is it not applicable?
When we're making claims about the Earth's age, when we're making claims about a tree's age, when we're making claims about rock formations, when we're making claims about the atmosphere of the Earth, when we're making claims about
that was a big pivot.
It's not a pivot at all. You asked the question.
What do you
I'm
mean
giving
claims
you
about the?
examples.
I mean, it just sounds like that you wanted to talk about climate change. But look, that's neither here nor there. So, what part of the scientific method works when we're talking about chemistry, and doesn't work when we're talking about tree rings?
What part about the scientific method? Well, I don't know. That's a good question. I'm not real privy to
because you said that like, oh, the scientific method works sometimes, but it doesn't work in these other cases. So I'm asking, what about the scientific method fails to work in these cases that you think it fails to work in, but it does work in all of the other cases?
When we have an observable observable evolution of something in humanity, like let's take for instance the microwave or X-rays, right? Before X-rays, we didn't know that you could use X-rays to see through humans' bodies, but now we know, right? So that is scientific. We can look to that and say, yes, this is a thing. Before this date, we didn't know that we could view humans' bodies internally, and after this date, we know that we can because we've learned about X-rays, right? You can't point me to any scientific research that's going to say that the Earth is not 6,000 years old.
Yes, I can.
You can't show me, you can't prove to me that the Earth isn't 6,000 years old.
Well, maybe I can't prove it to you because I suspect any evidence I show you, you'll just reject. But absolutely, there's tons of evidence that would say that.
And I'm not arguing that the Earth is 6,000 years old. I think it's probably way older than that. However, you can't for certain.
You don't think the Earth is just 6,000 years old. You're just denying the science that says it isn't. I'm
denying the science that your prompt says Earth isn't 6,000 years old. You cannot prove to me that it's not. That's what I'm saying.
There's like tons of scientific evidence demonstrating
there's tons of scientific evidence
that it's not.
In the year 600 BC that the Earth was flat.
So we're just doing science denial then? Like I'm offering to present you with evidence, and you're like, that evidence doesn't count because science was wrong in the past.
Yes. You can't for certain.
Okay, so to be clear, and this is just for the audience. I'm just rehashing it. So correct me if I'm improperly representing your view. To be clear, your view is science was wrong in the past, so we can't rely on scientific evidence today.
we can't rely on all scientific evidence today because has been wrong in the past and it will be wrong in the future.
So we're doing that's just science denial, right?
Okay, you can call it what you want.
No, I mean like with that line of reasoning, you could just reject any scientific claim that was made.
Absolutely. And I think you should as a scientist.
That's science denial, right?
At your core, you should be able to deny
that is science denial, right?
Yes.
To be clear, being a scientist is about challenging beliefs. It's not about just denying stuff. No. Challenging
things if it's all true.
Challenging. You challenge hypotheses, right? Challenging is when you examine the data critically and you see.
Why do you need to do that?
Because that's how we improve.
That's how we understand.
Nobody's making the claim that it's all true. The reason why science works is because it roots out the things that are false and disproves them. That's why science works, because people challenge these things all the time. And when they fail to challenge them, that just bolsters the credibility of the things that failed to challenge.
Okay, so your point in challenging things is what?
The point of challenging things is to root out the false things and to to repeatedly confirm or fail to root out the true things.
So would you agree that the scientific community is moving forward to cure cancer?
I have no idea. I don't know anything about
as a physicist, what is something
technology?
I don't know. String theory. I'm not real. You obviously know way more about this than I do, but I would assume that string theory isn't a known fact, right? Like, I guess, can you explain to me, one, what string theory really is? Two, from my little bit of understanding, it's kind of a middle road between Einstein's general relativity and Isaac Newton's gravitational stuff. I don't really know. However, I do know that as a theory, you're implying in the name that you're going to challenge it, right? Because we don't know.
So that's not what a theory is. So when scientists use the word theory, okay, and by the way, this is for everybody who's listening because this is going to blow a bunch of people's minds. So there's like the lay definition of theory that like your everyday person will use, and that's just like a guess, right? It's just like a thought that somebody has. It's just a guess. That's what theory means to the everyday person. When a science communicator, think like Neil deGrasse Tyson, think like Bill Nye the Science Guy. When a science communicator uses the word theory, what they mean is a model, like a scientific model, that has a whole bunch of evidence backing it up, right? It's like super confirmed. Like it's been experimentally verified time and time again that this is true. That's what a science communicator means. When a scientist, at least a physicist, I can't talk for chemists or biologists, I don't know what language they use, but at least for physicists and mathematicians, when this group uses the word theory, they literally just mean a mathematical model that purports to describe something. It hasn't necessarily been scientifically verified. So what you're seeing is a conflation of these terms. So string theory got its name because it was named by physicists to just represent, look, this is a mathematical model that like maybe it explains this thing. We don't know, but it's not like super ultra confirmed, verified or whatever. That's like a different notion of the word theory. But it's also not a guess.
Okay, so it's not ultra confirmed. Was your words, right?
Yeah. String theory is not a theory in that sense. No.
Okay, so can you point to me something that is ultra confirmed?
Quantum electrodynamics.
Which would be what?
It's the quantum theory that describes the behavior of electrons and their interactions with light.
Okay, so we, as a physicist, and I'm going to take your word for it, we say that quantum electric, is that what you call it? Quantum electric theory is more factual than string theory, right? Would you agree to that?
Sure.
Okay.
In simple language, sure.
I'm sure you could get into the deep dive on it, but however, my point is we've got two different theories that physicists are exploring, right? We've got one theory which the consensus says, we kind of think this is the way things work. Whereas with string theory, we've got a consensus that we don't really know how it works, right? Would you agree to that?
So they're kind of different things. They're different categories of thing, right? Like quantum electrodynamics is like well established. It's like kind of done in some sense. Like this is the story with regards to how electrons and light interact with each other. String theory is like a frontier idea that people think might like supersede quantum electrodynamics. Like it might might subsume it, but we don't know. Like we just don't know. Maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong.
We don't know. But these other theories we're certain about, right?
Quantum electrodynamics, yeah.
Don't you see a little bit of an issue with the scientific method there? Don't you see that it's a little bit?
The whole thing about string theory is that it hasn't been tested with the scientific method.
So why do we call it string theory? Why don't we just
because look, it's called string theory because it's a mathematical model. Like I said, the word theory, as used by physicists and mathematicians, is a word that means a mathematical model that purports to explain something. It's not. This isn't something that has been like tested tested in the laboratory, right?
Okay, but you can test that the Earth was 6,000 years old in the laboratory.
Yeah, and you come up with no. You come up with the answer is no.
But can you point it to 4.9 or whatever it is billion years old in the laboratory?
Yeah, you can actually.
You can show me in a lab that the Earth is 4.5 billion years old.
Yeah, you take a little crystal called a zircon, and then you take it to your laboratory and you do mass spectroscopy on it. Sorry, I can't talk.
Okay, so we've got it nailed. We've got it nailed down to the date, right?
No, didn't say that. Like with all experimental sciences, and geochronology is one of them. Right. There are error bars, right? Those error bars tell you that your measuring equipment is only sensitive to this much, and so you can't
margin of error.
Yeah, like on like a tape measure, right? If you're trying to measure something super precisely, you can never measure it more precisely than the distance between two tick marks.
Same with weight, right? I can say that I'm 190 pounds, but I will never know if I'm exactly 190 pounds.
Yeah. You step on a scale, it says 190 pounds, but that could be 190.2 or it could be 189.9. That's what the error bars are. And the error bars on the age of the Earth are something like 1%, which is about 50 million years.
So knowing that there's error, that we've already accounted for error in our scientific process, right? How can you say for certain that it's not 6,000 years old? Because we know we've got error.
The error bars are plus or minus 50 million years from 4.5 billion. 4.54 billion years old.
50 million
and those, because you can confirm using statistical methods the size of the error from taking multiple different samples, from taking multiple different measurements, multiple different measurement techniques. There are ways that you can measure error when doing a scientific measurement, right? For example, and this is just a perfect example. Suppose that you wanted to measure the growth rate of a plant, right? Like the growth rate of some bamboo. You take a species of that bamboo, you clone it. So you can clone plants by chopping them up and then putting them in the ground separately. So you clone it so it's all identical bamboo, and you try to give them identical amounts of water, identical amounts of sun, because you want to measure how fast it's growing. But inevitably, they're not going to grow at exactly the same rate. So what you can do is you can do this with 100 different clones of the same bamboo plant. You can take the average of all of their different growth rates. You measure it over days or over weeks or whatever, and you'll get a spread. They won't all be exactly the same. You'll get a spread. And from that average and from that spread, you can figure out what the error is in your measurement. And you can also evaluate what the error is in your measurement by looking at, how accurate is my tape measure when I'm measuring how quickly they grow? How accurate is my stopwatch when I figure out how long it's been? These are all ways that you can figure out how much error is in your measurement.
What if I said that I believe that the Earth is 4.9 billion years old, right? But my
error that's outside the error bars.
Okay, whatever it is, whatever you say.
4.54 or so.
4.54. Let's go with that. But let's say my error is 85%.
Then that's not a very good scientific assessment. I mean, it still could be true. It's just not very good.
Prove to me that your error margin is correct and mine is not.
Oh, you'd have to run the statistics on this. You can basically just collect a bunch of data. You'll get a normal distribution, and then you can measure the standard deviation. That's a measure of your error.
I don't understand how that's going to allow me to have. I mean, yeah, sure, we can use statistics.
So look, so a good example of this is if you have less error, if you're a good shot, then let's say with a bow and arrow or whatever, you will hit the bullseye and then a small little area around the bullseye. You'll never get it exact, or you'll never always get it exactly on, but you'll have only a little bit of error. So you'll have a very, very tight spread around the bullseye. But if you're not a good shot, then you'll have a wider spread. You have more error. And so you can look at the data that you have available and you can see how wide is the spread. And that will tell you about the error that you have.
And we apply that to the Earth's age.
Yep.
Which is wild to me. Why would we do that?
What do you mean why? Because we want to know how the world is. We want to know how old the world is. We want to know what the world is like. We want to know true things about the natural world.
We want to know true things about the natural world, so we're going to rely on a scientific method that already has built-in error margins.
Yes.
Okay. Or hear me out. We could let faith guide us, right?
You could do that, but that doesn't seem like a very effective way at figuring out what's true about the world around us.
And here's been my argument since I started, and I gotta head out here shortly. But the truth of the matter is, the truth of all of this, everything that we've discussed, you don't know how old the Earth is. I don't know how old the Earth is. Neither one of us knows. You rely on a scientific process that has been proven in the past to be incorrect. It's been proven in the past to have fallacies ingrained in the ideas. Those are proven things you and I can both agree to. We already have agreed to it. I rely on faith, right? I rely on something that's been taught for thousands of years. And I rely on, I'm under the impression that we are created. I'm under the impression that this earth is too perfect for it to just happen by chance, right? That's kind of my way of thinking. And I almost, as a scientist.
So we're just like rehashing the same like science denial stuff that you were doing like 30 minutes ago?
I don't deny science at all. I mean,
that's exactly what you're doing in this screed right now.
I deny certain parts of science, just like I deny certain parts of the Bible. Like I said, I'm open-minded. I don't. In the Old Testament, it says that women, that show their ankles should be stoned to death. I deny that, right? I also deny that there's some climate emergency right now.
So science denial, a good example of science denial is when you say, "Oh, science has been wrong in the past, so we shouldn't trust it now." That's like a great example of science denial.
That's not what I said. I deny your claim.
Are you sure?
I deny your specific claim that the Earth is not 6,000 years old because you can't show me.
Well, I can. You just won't believe it.
You cannot show me that you know the age of the Earth. You've already established that you have a margin error in your thinking. You can't.
No, I can show you that it's not 6,000 years old, though. That's pretty easy.
Okay, sure. And we agree.
I can just show you like ice core samples that show 104,000 years of seasonal changes.
Okay, but you cannot show me that it's 4.65 billion years old.
That's not the claim. I mean, that is true, but that's not what you said. You're moving the goalposts now.
There's a margin of error.
Wait, why are you moving the goalposts now?
I'm not moving the goalposts. I'm stating.
The original claim that you made not 2 seconds ago was, you can't show me that the Earth is not 6,000 years old.
And you can't.
Yeah, I can. I can show you ice core samples that show 104,000 seasonal variations.
Do those ice core samples? So does that mean that prior to the year 6,000, that seasons were the exact same, 4 months per season?
That there were seasonal changes?
Yes.
Yeah, it does rely on there being seasons. Yeah.
It doesn't.
Do you think that there weren't seasons more than 6,000 years ago?
I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know what.
Do you think that like seasons just all of a sudden started?
I don't know what catastrophic events happened that could have changed seasons. I don't know if the Earth's tilt on its axis was the same as it is now. There's a lot of variables you and I don't know. So you can't.
Fortunately, we can rely on a lot of different pieces of data that all agree.
And
we
in
don't have to rely on a single piece of data.
In 1,000 years from now, the data that you're referencing could be null and void. Correct?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No.
I guarantee you, if you were to go back 1,000 years and ask somebody on the Earth,
they weren't doing science 1,000 years ago.
Do you think we'll have? Do you think we'll have these things that we drive around on roads? I mean, they would have.
Why are we talking about engineering now?
No, we're talking about the fact that the way that you view science is flawed because you're not leaving.
No, I view science realistically.
You can't. If you think that 1,000 years from now, scientists are going to say this was the correct way we did things.
I think that there will be things. I think that there will be a lot of things that we got right 1,000 years from now.
What would lead you to believe that? You think we're better than the scientists 1,000 years ago?
Yes, because there weren't scientists 1,000 years ago.
Okay, 500 years ago, you think we're just that much better than those scientists?
You know the equals sign was invented 500 years ago, right?
Sure.
How were they doing? Like they weren't doing data analysis 500 years ago.
They definitely had mathematics more than 500 years ago.
They definitely were not doing data analysis 500 years ago.
I don't know.
Data analysis is like a thing started maybe 150 years ago.
What does data analysis have to do with mathematics?
You use mathematics to do it? That's
Okay,
how
sure.
you do data analysis?
That doesn't mean they weren't doing mathematics.
I didn't say that they weren't doing mathematics. I said they weren't doing data analysis.
Data, which is a pivot of what I'm talking about.
Data analysis is important to the scientific method.
Sure.
Mathematics
And
as like a practice is like related to data analysis, but it's not related to the scientific method.
What if I told you I had a time machine, right? I could go in the future 1,000 years, and I go in the future 1,000 years, and we discover that data analysis is the most bullshit concept we could have used in the year.
That would be crazy.
That would be crazy, right?
That would be crazy. I actually wouldn't believe you.
Just like if you went back 1,000 years and told them we could fly in airplanes, right?
No, see, one would be crazy because.
So the people 1,000 years ago,
Johnny, one would be crazy because like it would be crazy to say that data analysis is flawed, is like that it's like the stupidest thing that we could possibly do, because data analysis is just a rigorous way of taking our observations and converting them into conclusions. Now, the reason why it's not crazy, the reason why the person 1,000 years ago would be just like kind of incredulous for saying it's crazy that we have flying machines is just because they're basing their understanding of what, you know, what it means to fly, what it means to be a person, and all of these things. Right? They're basing that on incorrect facts about the world.
They didn't understand Bernoulli's principle. They didn't understand the things that make airplanes fly, right? Just like we don't understand what's going to happen in 1,000 years from now. We don't know. It's pretty evident off of human history.
And therefore, we should just reject all the science. Got it.
I didn't say that. I've never said that.
That is the conclusion of your argument, my guy.
You keep claiming that I'm a science denier, which is so far from the truth.
You're right. You're only a science denier with regards to the things that make your religion seem silly.
No, that's not true. That's not true at all.
Okay, give me another example.
Well, first off,
give me an example of a scientific conclusion that you believe that contradicts your world, that contradicts Christianity.
A scientific belief that contradicts...
A scientific conclusion that contradicts Christianity that you believe.
I think that, well, the Bible doesn't speak much on science. So that's the issue that we have here. Like, you can't point me in the Bible.
That wasn't my question. I wasn't asking for a scientific claim that like contradicts another scientific claim in the Bible. I was asking for a scientific belief that you, or a scientific conclusion that you believe is true that contradicts Christianity.
There's not one.
Okay, so sounds like the only science you believe is the science that doesn't contradict Christianity. It just sounds like that's confirmation bias and
tell me
science
one
denial.
Scientific belief that contradicts the Bible.
Yeah, there are ice core samples that are 104,000 years old.
Where in the Bible does it say that the Earth isn't 104,000 years old? Please show me.
I mean, there's a lineage in Luke, is it?
Okay.
That tells you how long it's been since between Adam and David, I want to say, or Adam and Jesus.
What's that got to do with ice core samples? 140,000 years ago.
Well, because from the...
You want to try Darwin's theory of evolution? You want to try that one? You want to try
sorry, Luke, or not Luke, Johnny. I'm sorry, I wasn't done. From the lineages, well, the Adam was created when the Earth, 5 days after the Earth was created, and so
how do you know it's to God?
I'm just using what it says in the Bible, right? It says 5 days. That's the word in the Bible. It uses the word day.
That's the word that
it uses the word yom, right? But that's the Hebrew word for day. So yeah, I mean, it does contradict what it says in the Bible, at least read literally. Now, you could read it figuratively, in which case you're just saying, well, the Bible, you know, you shouldn't take it all serious. You shouldn't take it seriously the whole time, right? Like, you know, you shouldn't take it literally. If that's your position, then great, but that's not your position.
Well, my position is you can absolutely cherry pick, as you know, my view of...
I can give you another example.
Of my Christianity.
In Genesis 1, it says that plants were created on the third day. I might be getting the day wrong, but I think it's the third day. And the sun was created on the fourth day, which means in Genesis 1, in the Bible, it says that plants existed before the sun did.
Were you there?
Were we doing the science denial again?
I'm just asking if you were there. That's all I asked. Or was
you there?
Scientists there?
Were you there?
No,
this is not how we establish what is the claims made by the scientific method. You don't have to have been there. It's not required.
Well, I've explained to you that the things that we weren't there for, that we don't have human interaction with, I have a hard time believing those things.
So you have so to be clear, were you there? So do you have a hard time believing that the Earth was created that the sun was created on the fourth day and plants were created on the third day? Do you have a hard time believing that?
No, I don't, because I don't know.
But no humans were there.
I don't know but I have religious faith, or I have
so I thought you said that you have a hard time believing things that we don't have human interaction confirming.
When it comes to my faith, I wholeheartedly believe in my faith.
So you only have a hard time believing scientific claims. That's what I put my trust in. That's what I put my trust in. You only have a hard time believing scientific claims that contradict your worldview.
Well, you haven't mentioned one that contradicts the Bible.
I just did. I mean, the sun existed before plants did. That's a scientific claim that you reject.
You don't know the process that was involved in those 7 days.
You could say you don't know. I don't care. The point is that the scientific claim, the consensus amongst the scientific community is that the sun existed before plants did, and you reject that, right?
Yes, I reject that. Yes.
So that's an example of you rejecting A scientific claim that contradicts the Bible.
It doesn't contradict the Bible because the Bible doesn't say.
The Bible says that
the Bible doesn't attempt to make an explanation of how it happened.
It doesn't. It's not that there's an explanation required. The Bible does say that plants pre-existed the sun, predated the sun.
Okay, sure. And how do you know that they didn't?
That's not the point of this line of inquiry. The point of this line of inquiry is that the scientific consensus is that they didn't, and you reject it in favor of believing what the Bible says.
Yes, I reject the claim.
You asked for an example. You asked for an example of a scientific claim that contradicts the Bible that you reject, and I gave you one.
I mean, if you want to use that as your scientific claim, I would argue that
is a scientific claim. Yeah, that is a claim that is founded via scientific consensus.
Okay, sure. Then that's one example.
Yeah. There you go.
However, that doesn't mean that I'm a science denier.
It does though.
No.
And I know that makes you uncomfortable because I'm sure that you see yourself as a man of science. I'm sure that this is like something that you think is valuable.
I see myself as a man of God and as a person that has religious faith.
Why does it make you uncomfortable to be told that you're doing science denial? You're not a man of science. Why does it matter?
Because I don't deny science. I think X-rays are a very real thing. I think the cell phone that I'm holding in my hand is a very real thing.
So you don't deny engineering. You're confusing engineering and science, it seems like.
Not at all. There was science involved in creating cell phones. There's science
creating
involved
cell phones. Do you think that there were any scientists on the team that created the first cell phone, that created your iPhone or whatever? Or do you think it was engineers?
Well, engineers probably created the product. However, they couldn't have done it without science. Some sort of scientist somewhere creating or explaining how electrons flow through the phone and explaining how things can.
Right. It's the scientists who created quantum mechanics. Yeah, I agree. The scientists who created quantum mechanics. So you say that you would say that you think that quantum mechanics is like a real, like you trust that quantum mechanics is true?
In this sense,
in this sense, in which sense?
In the sense that it was involved in the creation of this cell phone.
Okay,
yes.
so you just trust in the engineering then. This is not about the science. It's not about the actual science. It's just in the sense that it was applied in a phone, that's what you think works.
Yes, science that I can see with
that's
my
engineering.
own eyes.
That's engineering.
Science that I can see with my own eyes.
Can you see the electrons with your own eyes?
In my reality, I believe in that science. However, I don't believe that.
And you deny any other, so like you believe in the science of like 400 years ago is what you're telling me.
Some of it, yeah.
And like you reject basically everything post 1760s, maybe.
I reject things that we can't experience as humans.
Okay, so like you reject all of quantum mechanics because.
That's not what I said.
Well, you can't experience quantum mechanics as a human.
Okay, well, I don't even know what quantum mechanics is. Enlighten me, please.
It's the physics of like electrons and atoms, those kinds of things.
Okay, and those things have been tested and true. When I plug my phone,
but you can't experience them, right?
I can absolutely experience it when I plug my phone into the wall.
No, you're not experiencing them.
I understand that electrons are running through the ground to my house.
How do you even know electrons are real?
Well, that's an interesting question because, I think science proves that they're real.
Oh, how? You can't experience them.
Well, I think they can experience them.
How do you experience an electron?
Well, I think if you look at the particle accelerators and things like that,
you're just getting data traces on a computer. You're not experiencing an electron.
Huh? I mean, how else? Okay, so all of the science that they're doing at the particle accelerators,
it's all data. It's filtered through data.
It's just numbers, right?
It's
just numbers.
Yeah, it's just numbers.
So there's no way that they know that there's electrons running through the accelerator.
Well, no. The thing is if you weren't a science denier, then you would be like, oh, that's evidence, and therefore I have good reason to justify the belief that electrons are real.
I'm proving that I'm not a science denier. I know you want to label me as one, but that's just not the case. I totally believe in.
But the standard that you are making, the standard that you're enforcing, that you have to have human experience, that standard isn't met for electrons.
It is 100% met for electrons.
What human experience is involved in in detecting electrons?
When I plug in a lamp at my house.
That has nothing to do with electrons.
I understand that when I plug something in my house, there's power involved, right? What's in power?
Who knows? It could be fluffy unicorns for all you know. You can't experience it.
So you're a science denier then. Why are you denying science as a physicist?
I'm satirizing you.
That's insane. I don't understand how you could be a physicist with a PhD.
I was satirizing you.
And deny science like that.
I was satirizing you.
This idea, this view, this worldview that science is fact, we never deviate from science, is insane to me. I, as a Christian, can deviate from some things, right? I might not be a good Christian to a lot of people, but I think a lot of the things that were written down in the Bible by human beings aren't necessarily the way we should do things in 2025.
That's great. I just think that we should rely on evidence to form our beliefs.
You can't, I mean, but you won't concede that anything other than your scientific evidence is fact, right?
No, I just think that we should form our beliefs using evidence, right? Like, you can use non-scientific evidence, that's fine. I just think that you should use evidence to form your beliefs. And we have lots of evidence that the Earth is older than 6,000 years old.
What is something that science doesn't prove? Can you
science doesn't prove things like, I don't know, that there are some infinities larger than other infinities, for example. That's a mathematical claim. It's not a scientific one.
So there's no evidence for that, right? There's no evidence.
It's not even, it's a category error to ask for evidence. Well, to ask for empirical evidence. This isn't an empirical question, right?
Okay, so your view is that maybe there isn't a infinity that's greater than a separate...
No. There's just a different kind of evidence. It's not empirical. It's not scientific.
It's empirical. It's not scientific.
No, it's not empirical. Right?
You think faith-based assertions are empirical?
What?
I mean, do you think? Have you seen? There's a guy in, I believe it's Kentucky. He's got the Noah's Ark Museum, and he's...
Oh yeah, I know that guy. I'm familiar with him.
So you and I would probably agree this guy shouldn't be doing that, right?
Yeah.
I can concede that is an example of religion that's taken it a little too far. Okay, as a Christian, I can do that. What can you do as a scientist to concede that maybe science isn't correct? Is there any example?
I don't think that it, like, science is a method, right? And I think that the method is very, very effective.
Well, you can't do it. You're so entwined with your scientific beliefs.
Why would I? I don't think it's true.
Why don't you come out like?
I don't think it's true. I don't think the scientific method is like fatally flawed in this one particular way. Like, I just don't think it's true. I think that the scientific method is really effective.
So in every instance that the scientific method has ever been applied, it's always correct.
No. The scientific method isn't correct or incorrect. The scientific method is a method. The conclusions that you come to can either be verified and backed up by evidence or not. Now, people can, misuse the scientific method or apply the scientific method incorrectly and come to wrong conclusions, and that happens all the time. And people can also use the scientific method correctly and get statistical flukes. Those also happen occasionally, and that might lead you to the wrong conclusion, even if you use the scientific method correctly. That happens. That happens occasionally, and so that's why repetition is important, because it can statistically rule out flukes.
Okay, you've mentioned flukes, and you agree that the scientific method doesn't always produce correct results, right?
Sure.
You agree to that?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
We both agree to that. My argument is that those beliefs that science, the flukes that you called them in the scientific process, my belief is that maybe a creator can explain those things. Maybe.
Well, no, but so those flukes are you're misunderstanding. Those flukes are statistical anomalies, and then you run the test again, and you can show that those were statistical anomalies, right? Like imagine that you were rolling dice. Or imagine that you wanted to figure out whether or not a 6-sided die was fair, right? Like maybe it's rigged or something like that. If you roll the dice 3 times and you get a 6 all 3 times, that would, if you just took that at face value, you'd be like, oh, this die isn't fair. But if you kept rolling it, and you got a 4, and then a 3, and then a 1, and then a 5, and then maybe another 6, and then you rolled it 100 times, those 3 6s in a row, if they wash out, you would then be reasonable to conclude, oh, those first 3 6s, it was a statistical fluke. It happens sometimes. That's why we test over and over again. These are not like things like, oh, we can't explain this random statistical anomaly. Like, statistical flukes happen.
Flukes happen in your process.
Yes. That's the whole business of statistics.
Flukes happen.
Yes. So, it's like when you roll 3 6s in a row. That happens sometimes, even if the die isn't loaded.
So as you understand in the scientific process, flukes happen. Why do you put so much faith in science? If you know that flukes happen, why do you put so much faith in science?
When flukes happen, that's a signal to run more tests. And then you either confirm that there's something that we didn't understand happening, and that fluke actually amplifies and becomes a true signal, or you confirm that fluke was genuinely just statistical noise, in which case you conclude that, oh, well, that fluke was meaningless. It didn't actually
So there's a flaw in
teach
your
us
process.
something new.
There's a flaw in your process, but you can't point to a flaw in my faith.
Wait, where's the flaw in the process?
You just admitted there was flukes.
Flukes aren't flaws. That's statistically expected.
So it's expected to get things wrong in science.
It's expected to see statistical flukes statistically frequently.
So it's expected to get the incorrect answer from what you're looking for.
In the same way that it's expected to get 3 6s in a row if you roll enough times, yeah.
Right. You expect that there's going to be some error, right?
Yes. Yeah,
So
of
how
course.
can you place
error
all your
bars
beliefs?
error bars and statistical anomalies happen. That's
How
a
can
thing.
you place your beliefs in something that you know is going to produce fallacies? How can you
Oh, they're not
produce
fallacies.
well, flukes, as you called them? How can you place
statistical
your beliefs?
flukes.
How can you place your beliefs in science when you know, as a scientist, that you will come across anomalies or flukes or whatever?
Because
How
the
can
whole
you-
enterprise of the scientific process is taking those flukes. And by the way, often discoveries come from you have some way that you think the world works, and then you run a new test, and you come across something that you think is a fluke. So then you run more tests to establish that it is, to show that it's statistical noise, and then you find out that that's actually a signal. And so that's the whole scientific process. When you detect one of these anomalies, one of these flukes, you run more tests to figure out what's actually going on. That's the whole business. The trouble with faith is that faith doesn't do this. It doesn't self-correct. If it gets something wrong, it will be wrong about it forever.
Sure. Yeah. But I agree. Yeah. If faith was wrong, it's wrong forever.
Yeah,
However,
and it is wrong about a lot of things. At least, if a literal interpretation of Genesis is, for example.
yeah, if you take a literal interpretation of the Bible, you're gonna
You'll get a lot of things wrong forever. It
Just
has
like
no way of
science.
correcting itself.
Just like science has gotten a lot of things wrong in the past.
No, but the thing is it's not just like science, because the Bible, as written, will be wrong about those things forever. There will never be a Bible 2.0 that says, "Oh, we got this stuff wrong in the past. Here's the right stuff." It will never do that. The whole enterprise of the scientific process is that it is self-correcting.
But
So
there is a process.
you can trust the stuff now more than you could trust the old stuff.
But there is
The
a
fact
process
that
in science that will say
religious
1,000 years from now we got it wrong, right?
One more time.
There is a process. Science will allow for new discoveries to come about and things to happen in future times that we didn't understand right now. Would you agree to
Absolutely.
that?
Absolutely. There
Okay.
will be things that we don't understand now that we will understand better in the future.
Absolutely. We both
Those
agree.
things, by the way, those things will be the statistical flukes that we can't that their signals get bigger and bigger, and we don't have an explanation for why they're doing that.
Right,
It's not that the
exactly.
old theories are wrong. It's that the new theories will be able to explain what we currently observe and more.
Okay, great. And my process as a Christian is to think that my faith will guide me through those flukes that you experience.
But
Your
it never
science
has.
is
It's never your faith can't update, right?
Exactly. That's the
It
whole
cannot.
point.
It can't. The whole
That's
point
why-
is
that's
to
why
be
that's
wrong
why I
forever.
have it.
Okay, that's a weird.
That's why
a
I
weird desire.
have faith, because I understand that it doesn't change, because it's not up for
Because
debate.
you want it to be wrong forever. That's weird.
That's not what I said at all. I don't how do
Well,
you
if it
I don't know
can't
how you come to
change
that
and it's
conclusion.
wrong about even one thing, then it's wrong forever.
The way that my faith has changed is humans have changed it.
Oh,
Right.
so like you recognize that that the Bible has issues, and so humans have creatively interpreted the Bible so that it doesn't seem like it has issues anymore.
No, I didn't say that. I said that humans have gotten the Bible wrong in the past.
Oh, so it's the Bible that was right. It was just the humans that were reading it that were wrong.
The human interpretation of the Bible has
Got
been
it.
wrong in the past.
Got it.
However, there is no deviation like you see in science. There's no insane claim that has
Yeah,
been
and
made.
that's nutso. It's nutso that you can't change your views. That like the Bible is like the final story and that's
We
it.
just established that we can change our views.
The Bible
when the
can't
Salem witch
change.
trials were going on, we were we were executing people that we.
So what
felt
changed
were
there?
witches.
Did the Bible change?
No, humans changed.
So wait a minute. So then you're telling me that the Christians in the past were wrong
About certain things,
about
absolutely.
about the witch trials, like about slavery, about stoning people to death.
Absolutely.
So
yes.
so in 1,000 years,
Human
couldn't the
beings have gotten it
Christian?
wrong.
But in 1,000 years, couldn't the Christians be wrong about Jesus? Couldn't the Christians today be wrong about Jesus rising from the dead?
I think if you look at the history of Christianity versus the history of science, Christianity has proven to stay along the course, to follow its path, compared to science that has changed
Oh,
dramatically
no, it hasn't.
to where we used to think the earth was flat, but now we
Wait
say
a
it's
minute.
round.
So to be clear, is it a good thing when it can change, or is it a bad thing when it can change? Because it seems like you're trying to defend both views.
No, are you referencing science or are you referencing the Bible?
I'm saying if you have a method of forming beliefs, is it a good thing if that method can change, or a bad thing if that method can change?
It's a good thing.
Okay, so it's a good thing then that, Christianity can change, and it's a good thing that science can change.
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
absolutely.
so you're telling me that. Hold on. I gotta channel my inner Johnny. So, isn't it possible that 1,000 years from now, the Christians will be like, those Christians from 1,000 years ago were so wrong about thinking Jesus rose from the dead?
No, because that's the one thing that has remained the same. That's the one thing that's remained the same. That's one of the few things.
You're right. But it could be. Those Christians were so wrong about Jesus actually being God and being part of a Trinity.
If you think like that, then you're no longer a Christian.
Oh, but I thought you said Christianity could change.
It can, and it
Okay,
will.
so that would be an example of Christianity changing. So could you be wrong about Jesus being part of a Trinity?
No, because in my faith and my belief, that's what.
Oh, but I thought that I could believe. What if tomorrow you wake up and you realize that Jesus isn't part of the Trinity?
That wouldn't make. I mean, then that's not Christianity. That's not how the belief.
No. But what if Christianity changed? Right?
It's not going. If it changes outside of the parameters of Christianity, it's no longer Christianity.
That wasn't the original parameter of Christianity. The Trinity is like 300 years younger than Christianity is.
Okay, well, part of the beliefs as a Christian is in the Trinity and in Jesus' resurrection.
It wasn't always that way.
I'm pretty sure we've always believed that Jesus was resurrected. I think that
doesn't have anything to do with the Trinity.
Well, I'm not pivoting to the Trinity. I'm talking about.
I was talking about the Trinity because you're right. You're right. The core tenet of Christianity is that Jesus is resurrected. That's true.
And it hasn't changed in thousands of years.
So that's why it changed. That's why I brought up another example of something that has changed. So originally there was no Trinity. The Trinity is something that is a few hundred years younger than Christianity.
Sure.
And so you agree that tomorrow Christianity could just change and it could be like they were all wrong about the Trinity. The Trinity is not real.
I'm sure certain theologians could come to that conclusion. Sure.
You could come to you could recognize that you were wrong about the Trinity.
I won't though. I won't because I have faith.
But I thought it was good when things can change.
It is. It's absolutely.
Oh, okay. So it'd be good if your views about the Trinity could change.
My views on Christianity will not change because I have faith. And however, your views in science change all the time.
Or is that bad? So look, it sounds so if it was good that things can change with new information, then it seems like it's bad if your views about Christianity can't change with new information.
That we already established that's not what's happened. We looked at. I mean, we can.
No. But so then new information could come up that could change your views about the Trinity.
Like, I mean, your example is not a very good example. I don't understand.
Is it possible that new information could come up that changes your views about the Trinity?
No, because the Trinity is part of my religion.
But so premise one, it is good. Or premise one, when views can change about the when views can change given new information, it is good. Premise two, your views cannot change your views about Christianity cannot change when given new information. Premise
no.
Actually that was actually not a valid syllogism. I can construct a valid syllogism if you want.
Let's try something else.
But so roughly we want something like it is when a thing cannot change its position given new information, that is bad. Do you hold to that or no?
When a thing cannot change based off of new information, it is bad.
Right. Do you agree with that?
No, I would not agree to that.
Okay, so you think it's possible for a position to be good without changing its views in light of new information?
Yes.
Okay. Now you also think that a position is good if it can change its positions in light of new information?
Absolutely.
Okay, so are any methodologies bad?
Yes.
Which ones?
Well, in regards to my religion, I'm not going to...
Talk about methodologies here.
Okay, well, in regards to religion versus science, as a excuse me, as a Christian, I'm not going to accept things that make me no longer a Christian. because I have faith in those
Even in light
beliefs
of new information.
thousands of years. I mean, what new information could we discover that is going to shake my faith in Christianity?
Yeah. How about a newly discovered gospel written by, let's say Jesus. Let's say Jesus wrote something in the last year of his ministry. And he explicitly wrote, and we confirmed that this was his handwriting. He signed it. We figured out that it was written during his lifetime. He says, I am not one. I am not God. I am merely God's representative on earth. He and I are not one. There is merely the Holy Spirit and the Father, and I am just a representative on earth. I am not God. That could change your views on the Trinity, right?
Absolutely, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, but I thought you said that new information couldn't change your views on the Trinity.
It depends on where the information is coming from. If it's coming from
Okay, so you're just contradicting yourself now.
No, you're not listening. If the information, like you said, comes from Jesus himself, then I would be inclined to believe what he says. However, I don't believe what Dr. Blitz says on TikTok, and it's not going to change my view structure on science and religion. It's just
well, it should. What if a manuscript was found in Jesus's hand? What if a manuscript was found written by Jesus that said, "I am not the Messiah"?
Then maybe that's I don't know.
Would you stop being a Christian?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Okay. All right, Johnny. Thank you so much for being here. It's been a pleasure.
It's been.
Sorry for cutting you off. You have been on for a while, so it's about time. You've been on for over an hour. All right, let's bring up another guest. I think that we probably have a guest from YouTube. Isaac, can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I absolutely can. Now, can you give me a 1-2 so I can see see if you're. What am I trying to do? I'm sorry. Check your audio is what I'm trying to ask for.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. 1, 2, 1,
okay.
2.
You sound okay.
Awesome.
Great. Okay. So, how old do you think the Earth is?
Yeah. I think that's a good question. To me, I've looked at probably both. I mean, there's probably two Christian views, whether you are a Christian evolutionist, which my cousin is. He's a biologist. And then obviously, the creationism standard Christian teaching that you'd probably disagree with. I was interested because I don't think either really matters, truthfully, and doesn't really impact or negate the Christian position, as there are two, although differing, views on Genesis and the creation story
So,
and narrative.
to be clear, you don't think that the Earth is young, or you do think that the Earth is young?
Yeah, I think the Earth. That's the thing is I've had my views have changed, right? A few times. I grew up probably standard creationist, viewpoint.
Okay, so what are your views
but
now?
I'm open to both.
What are your views now?
Yeah, I believe that Genesis is allegorical for a
Okay,
good
what are your
portion of
views
it.
about the age of the Earth?
Yeah, I'd say young Earth, probably.
Okay. I just needed to establish that, that's all. Because otherwise
sorry
you're
about
not the
that.
person
Yeah,
that I want to talk to. Okay, so you think that the Earth is probably young. Maybe not 6,000, maybe 7,000, 12,000, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah. I'd say too, I mean, that's why I believe it's open for interpretation as well, right? Scripture tells us the earth, a day is like 1,000, years in the earth, in the Lord's eyes. So I believe that, it's not something that, disrupts my faith or even causes contention, even among Christianity itself. But I believe it is an interesting conversation.
Okay. So what convinces you or what compels you to at least lean towards a young Earth?
Yeah. I'd say mostly, right, that obviously the basis and standard for me would have been scripture, right? And so off of that, right, but not seeing that as, talking to someone with a secular viewpoint that doesn't really hold much weight. So
So
truthfully, it would be, yeah, a literal reading of genealogies in the Bible to calculate,
sure.
you know, that timeline
And no, I understand that. So like literal readings have led people to conclusions like the earth is flat as well. Do you think that a literal reading is always responsible? Of, you know, I mean, like this is a document that's like, you know, 2,000 plus years old.
Yeah.
Is it really like, should we base our modern beliefs off of something that and even if, I mean, presumably you don't think that God actually wrote the Bible, you think that it was like God inspired, right?
Yes, sir.
So presumably, even if it was God inspired, plausibly, it was filtered through these ancient people's views of what the world is. Yeah. And so surely there could be problems in a literal reading because you would be believing things that people 2,500 years ago believe. And clearly they believed a lot of incorrect things.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the thing is I believe that the Genesis can be allegorical, right? So the days being something that you know, ancient Jewish writers would see as something different than we would as today. So I concede that, and I don't find it as necessarily something that would impede me from even steelmanning my position.
So let's talk evidence to the contrary. So are you familiar with radiometric dating?
Slightly. I'm probably more familiar with carbon dating, as you know.
So carbon dating is not used to figure out the age of the Earth. Yeah. So we don't need to talk about carbon dating at all. I know people don't like carbon dating, and you know, perhaps reasonably so. So radiometric dating is kind of like a general umbrella that's used to describe using radiation, using radioactive decay to figure out how old things are. And it's super reasonable, if only because, look, things radioactively decay at like a constant rate. And so if you can figure out how much of the radioactive decay has decayed or has happened, then you can figure out how long ago that thing started radioactively decaying, right?
Yeah.
And so, for example, uranium, we know that if you have a particular isotope of uranium, this is uranium-238, not the kind used to build bombs, by the way. Uranium-238 has a half-life of 4.5 billion years, give or take. Now, what that means is that if you have a lump of pure uranium-238 and you waited 4.5 billion years, then you'd afterwards have a lump of half uranium-238 and half lead, basically. And so you can just go look. You can just go look for crystals that form with uranium inside of them and don't form with lead inside of them. And if you then go look at the crystal now, it'll have some amount of lead and it'll have some amount of uranium. And you can use that to establish how long ago that crystal formed, because it formed with no lead and only uranium. And now there is some lead and less uranium. It seems like a pretty plausible way to figure out how old a crystal is. And this is a thing that's done, and you can figure out an age of around 4.5 billion years old for the Earth.
Yeah, that's fair.
And so, you know, in light of that, and then in light of all of the other data that we have, like, for example, the ice core samples, even the existence of ancient cities that are older than 6,000 years old, given examples of like erosion patterns and things like this, it just seems like the data isn't aligning with a young Earth.
Yeah. Yes, we're probably landing around what, the 4.5 billion years old?
Yeah, around there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's probably the right, if I were to steelman your argument, that's probably the one thing Christians probably can't get around, and that probably leads to the allegorical reading of Genesis. But I think the premise of your question on here is interesting, is that the church lied to us about science, as I don't know if that's correct. The church is kind of
not
always
all
had
churches.
This position.
Some churches will tell people. Yeah. So to be clear, this prompt is directed at those people who have been informed by their church that the Earth is 6,000 years old.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I'm probably more open-minded, so that's why being
well, that's fair.
Like, you know, that's fair, you know, and so I
That's totally fair, Isaac, but I am going to let you go because I'm looking for opposition here. But thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, I have some super chats to read. I missed them. So we have 10 Canuck bucks from X2Fun. Love your streams. Keep the cooking going. Look, I might not be a good cook in the kitchen, but I am a decent cook on a stream. Dave Mon sends $5. No message, just a pleasant donation. I appreciate you. Melinakis sends 10 European buckaroos. Hail Satan. Caller should have paid attention in first grade to understand how tree rings work. Yeah, that was kind of weird. Like, I thought that we kind of like agreed how tree rings work, right? So that was a little bit surprising. We have $5 from @devil. Guest, can you please explain the scientific theory to me so that I can express incredulity when the answer isn't God did it? Yeah, that's roughly how that happened. Like, at the end of the day, being a young Earth creationist is a kind of science denial, right? It's just a fact. It just is what it is. Now, I don't actually know what this is. I don't know what this means, but Cynical sent 30 joules. Thank you so much. Don't know what that is, but I appreciate it. Sonus Percussion sent 500 Argentinian money of some kind, which I think is like $2, maybe? I admire your patience, but this guy just don't want to learn. Yeah, that's fair. Cynical again with the 30 joules. Matthias with the 20 SEK. Don't know what SEK is either. We can guess. Sending Dr. Blitz have the patient of an angel implies God proven. True. That's a good point. Let's figure out what 20 SEK is, because I don't know. Oh, isn't that Swedish krona? Yeah, it's Swedish krona. Okay. Angela Elliott also sent 30 joules. Still don't know what this is. It's Argentinian pesos. That's what it is. Cynical with the 30 joules again. Angela with the 30 joules. I don't know what this is. What is this? I'll figure it out later. Just thank you. C-Bar with the $5. Did you see someone stealing food? No, you didn't. It's No Snitch November. Feed the hungry. True. Make sure. Well, I can't endorse that. Theft is wrong. And then the Duke of Shostka with the $2 European. The Holy Trinity of Nuh-uh, know you, and were you there? Yeah, fair point. And then we got a lot more jewels from Cynical and Angela and Cynical and Angela. I don't know what those are. I'll have to figure that out eventually. Garba Gaiman sends 5 Canuck bucks. Yes, my favorite is when you hold them to their own standards. The thing is, they usually don't get it. That's the trouble, right? Mike Kasich sends $5. He cherry picks what he wants to believe. It's a cult. Yes. Yes, it is. Mike Kasich again with the $5. Science is always correct. Science is the practice of seeking truth. Some people can be wrong. Science can't be. Well, okay. Science can lead to incorrect conclusions like statistical flukes, right? That's what I was getting at. But yes, the method's not wrong. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for a method to be wrong. And then Cynical sent 30 joules again. Angela sent 30 joules again. And Josh sent 10 joules again. Now, by the way, I should mention there's a new feature. So I have, let me just share this really quick. I have a document sheet that I use. Let me make sure that this isn't being, make sure that it's in the right place. I have a document. It looks something, I don't want you guys to see everything, do I? Yeah, it looks something like this. It has flat earth stuff. It has theism stuff. It has young earth stuff. Young earth needs to be filled out a bit. It has MAGA stuff. It's just has a whole bunch of resources, a whole bunch of arguments, just so I can refresh my memory. This is a document that I wrote. I've now made it publicly available. I shouldn't say publicly available. It's now available to YouTube members. YouTube members, it's like $4 or $5 or something like this a month. But I update this regularly. I just use it for myself to keep track of new pieces of evidence that I come across, arguments, and so on. And if you want access to that, that's the way to access it, right? It's motivation to do it. I'm going to be working on emojis and emotes and, things like that in the future. Not there yet, but we'll get there. But this is now accessible via those places, via YouTube memberships. So consider it. It's $5. Yeah. And I mean, like, you could get it now, and then you could only ever do a 1 month subscription for $5, but then you just wouldn't get the updated version, right? So keep that in mind. Anyway, I gotta offer some perks for members, otherwise nobody would do it. So let's move on to another guest. Let's talk to Jesus, my Lord, and Mary, my Queen. Sounds plausible.
That's 8 minutes.
Jesus, my Lord, and Mary, my Queen. How's it going?
I know, so we're good.
Can you hear me?
Let's say 10 minutes.
Can you hear me?
10 minutes.
Okay, no, we can't hear me. All right, let us talk to somebody else. Let's talk to a guy with a whole bunch of numbers. Call him 2049. 2049, how's it going?
Hello,
Oops.
good afternoon. My name is Jonathan. You can call me however you want.
Jonathan.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Jonathan.
Nice to meet you.
So, how old do you think the Earth is?
Well, I'm actually not 100% sure. I lean to believe in the young Earth theory.
Okay.
But I'm open to the Earth being very older, and I can justify it. Any interpretation from scripture you can give me, I can justify it from logic that it's not unreasonable to believe it.
So, it's not unreasonable to believe that the Earth is young?
It's not unreasonable from a logic perspective to believe that the Earth is young. That's my claim.
Okay. Would you say that rejecting pieces of evidence that all intertwine with each other is reasonable?
Well, I mean, the simple answer to that question would be it's not reasonable. But I was listening to the last guest. I was here for like maybe a whole hour, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But he was saying, I'm playing Minecraft, I need to concentrate. So basically, you brought the argument that the Earth cannot be 6,000 years old because of the tree rings and this type of crystals and the decay, and that's perfectly logical. But what if the lineages from the Bible do not say that the Earth is 6,000 years old, but that humanity on Earth is 6,000 years old?
Well, then you would not be thinking that the Earth is 6,000 years old. And you said that you could defend any claim, any piece of or you could defend that, you know, the Earth is 6,000 years old as reasonable in light of any claim or any evidence. But if you're willing to move the goalposts, if you're willing to say that, yeah, well, actually, I don't think the Earth is 6,000 years old. I only think humanity is 6,000 years old. Then that's just a different claim.
Yes, but maybe I didn't explain myself correctly. What I'm trying to say is that the Earth can be, based on your counter argument, right, from the lineages, it is possible from scripture and interpreting it literally to say that many thousands of millions of years could Adam and Eve lived in the garden, and after the fall of sin, then that's where that counting of
okay,
that
great.
starts.
Look, if you can navigate your interpretation of the Bible so that you therefore believe that the Earth is not 6,000 years old or 10,000 years old, but it's actually far, far, far older, like billions of years old, then we don't have a disagreement. You can still believe in the Bible if you want, as long as it doesn't disagree with all of the overwhelming evidence to the contrary.
Okay, and you also mentioned that you have a proof of society being more than 6,000 years old. I'd like to get
Göbekli Tepe, yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to get your source on that.
Are you familiar with Göbekli Tepe?
No, I'm not, please.
Okay, let me pull it up. So Göbekli Tepe is a village, or like a small town, a small inhabited structure that's around 10,000 years old or so. It's located in Turkey.
Okay, and what is the evidence or that?
So radiocarbon dating was used to show when the earliest exposed structures were built.
Okay, since I'm not going to be able to disprove that, because I'm not a scientist, I'd like to ask if it's possible. You're an expert in that field. Do you believe it's possible that decay could be exponential at some point?
I'm not sure what you mean by exponential. Do you mean that it could be?
At a certain
it could have been
point,
much faster in the past than it is today?
I mean that at a certain point, after a certain amount of years, the the rate that it starts decaying, or we see it get older, it gets faster?
Are you asking if it's logically possible, metaphysically possible, or physically possible?
Well, I mean, do you believe that could be the case?
No, I don't.
And how can you be certain about that?
Because the basis for the constant rate of radioactive decay is founded on quantum mechanics, and quantum mechanics is the most well-confirmed scientific idea that has ever been produced by humans in history.
Well, but I mean, you can't be certain about that, man. Or I mean, I wish I could be certain as you are, but I need to see the studies or to inform myself more about.
I mean, so look, quantum mechanics is like the foundation of essentially all microtechnology that we have that exists. It's also been verified to about 1 part in a trillion. Like the predictions of quantum electrodynamics agree with the outcomes of experiments to about 1 part in a trillion, which is better than has ever been done before in human history. That's like, 11 decimal places, right? Or yeah, it's like 11 decimal places. So is the contention that like we can't trust quantum mechanics because, why?
Well, no. I'm not saying that we can't trust quantum mechanics or that. I'm just trying to question how these systems work.
Yeah. So it is the, you could call them the laws of quantum mechanics, if you will, but I wouldn't use that kind of language. It is it is quantum dynamics that govern the decay rates of atoms, and those dynamics are really well understood. So much so that we have very, very good reason to think that these are things that are fixed. They're constants of nature, if you will.
Very well. And what exactly? Okay, so you mentioned this village. What was the name?
It's called Göbekli Tepe.
Göbekli Tepe. Is that the only evidence we have?
So it is the oldest documented. Well, it's the oldest, as far as I'm aware, the oldest confirmed human, like inhabited settlement. But we do have evidence of humans from much earlier. We have like bones and stuff. We have, tools that were made by humans. We have teeth. I think we even have some older mummies. That I can find though. Yeah, I think we have a mummy from like 10,000 years ago.
But we don't have nothing older than that.
So the oldest mummies ever found are smoke dried remains discovered in Southeast Asia that date back 14,000 years. Now I should probably look more into this because I'm not familiar with this, but like, the oldest naturally mummified corpse associated with the Chinchorro civilization was recovered from the Atacama Desert and is dated from around 7020 BC. So that would be about 9,000 years old.
Perfect. So you would say that's not very far from the 6,000 years. 6,000
well,
years
it's like 50% older than that, and we have we have bones. Like mummies don't last for nearly as long as bones do. For example, we have bones that are far older. We have bones that are hundreds of thousands of years old. In fact, we have bones that are millions of years old. Not human bones.
Yeah, I put thought into that about the fossils and all that. But I mean, I'm just not convinced. Maybe you could lead me to the path so I can get more knowledge on this subject. But I'm not convinced that we can tell with certainty, with that much certainty, that how the age of a bone is.
Well, look. So generally, if we want to find the age of a specific sample, there are kind of 2 ways. We can either use indirect dating or we can use direct dating. Indirect dating is you go look at the age of things that were nearby, or like the layer of rock that the sample was found in, something like this. That is a way that you can indirectly date something, and that maybe you're a little bit more skeptical of that, fine. But there are samples that we can find that can be directly dated. For example, if you have like, I don't know, the remains of a wolf or something like this, and you have bones, for example, you could just do like radiocarbon dating and figure out that wolf lived 26,000 years ago, for example, or whatever.
And how does that work exactly? What's the process?
So radiocarbon dating. So essentially, the way that this works is that the amount of so there's a certain kind of carbon 14, that exists in the atmosphere at basically a fixed percentage, like a fixed percentage of all of the carbon in the atmosphere is radiocarbon. It's a small percentage, but just by living, by breathing, by eating food and so on, some of the carbon that you're getting from the environment is that radiocarbon. And so the radiocarbon that's in your system is always being replenished. So while you're alive, the radiocarbon in your system is basically the ambient radiocarbon. It's the amount of radiocarbon that's in the atmosphere as well. And that's basically constant. But once you die, you're not ingesting any more new carbon to replenish the old carbon that dated away or that decayed away. And so once you're dead, all of that carbon-14 that was being replenished, now it just starts decaying. And so you can figure out how old something is by how long it's been, by how much carbon-14 there is left in a thing's body. Because we know the rate at which it decays. And so all we have to do is we just have to, determine how much there's left, how much it started with, and then find the difference essentially.
Okay, so here's what's going through my mind right now. I'm gonna repeat the question I did a while ago, and I'm gonna make a second question before I forget it.
Sure.
How are you sure that the decay rate does not get faster as time passes?
Yeah, so we've already been over that.
The second one, before I forget it, if you can answer the first one, how do you know that the biblical flood did not have any relation to this in causing this effect on the bones and causing that we see them different or in a different state as how it should regularly be if we're in dry conditions?
Yeah, so I've already explained why it is the case that we know that decay rates don't change. And this is because the values of the decay rates are determined by quantum dynamics. And quantum dynamics are like super, super well understood. These are things that can be essentially treated as constants of nature. Saying that they change over time would be equivalent to saying that quantum mechanics is wrong. And there's like a huge burden of scientific evidence to overturn that. So, just the overwhelming amount of scientific evidence indicates that, yes, the radioactive decay rates are constants. They can't be changed at all. The second point, a flood, the question is could a flood influence the amount of carbon-14 that are in the bones of something? And the point is maybe, but then we can go look at other pieces of evidence if you want. I mean, like in principle, if you take like a bone and it's going to have some amount of carbon-14 in it, and then you like thoroughly soak it, like maybe you could change the amount in it just by like, parasitic whatevers. But then we can just go look for evidence of the flood. And if there was a flood that covered the highest mountains, then we would expect to see global floodplains in the geological record that are like a kilometer thick. But we don't see that. And hence, we have no reason to think a flood happened.
We would see what?
Global floodplains. So when floods happen, they leave behind floodplains. Basically, they strip off rock, not rock. They like strip away topsoil and sediment because the water is flowing very quickly. And it mixes it all up. So you basically get a big uniform layer of, sand, dust, dirt, rock at some point in the geological record. That uniform layer is what's left behind from a flood. And you can see, these are called basically floodplains. You can see the records of these floodplains existing in places where we know there have been catastrophic floods. Like, for example, I think like 12,000 years ago or so, there was a large flood in North America from glacial walls breaking or something like this. And so you can go look in the geological record and you'll see like huge in the strata and like the geological record, you'll see huge parts that are like, oh yes, that's the flood because it's all uniform rock. But we don't see that uniformly everywhere, which means that there couldn't have been a global flood.
Yes, that seems very reasonable. But you would agree that if the biblical flood was true, it would have devastating effects on the land and how we do our crops, even to this day, right? You would agree on that?
Yes, and we would see the records of that in the geological record.
Right. So if you agree on that, for me, that's not a problem. I know you're not going to accept it, but I'm still going to share it. For me, that's not a problem what you're saying, because I can believe with no trouble that God would have not just sent a flood to destroy all life on Earth and save a human family if he was not going to make the Earth habitable for next generation. So I have no problem with that.
But
because
global floodplains wouldn't affect the agricultural productivity. In fact, floodplains are generally very, very agriculturally productive. So it wouldn't really negatively affect people's ability to like do agriculture and stuff like that.
Well, even if we don't take it to the agriculture point, I could still acknowledge that maybe God that sent the flood. If we believe that that happened, maybe the God that sent the flood would have been capable of protecting the earth, so it would not leave any type of marks for a reason that only He knows.
Okay, so look, if the flood happened, how did the kangaroos get to Australia?
Maybe. Well, there could be many reasons for that, many theories.
Okay, yeah, give me one.
Not based on science. I can give you some of my personal
Yeah,
theories.
okay, give me one.
For example, maybe God could have taken the animals there.
So, right, okay. So it seems like any time that there's a flaw in the story that you're telling, and you fix it by saying, oh, well, God just fixed it. God just made it so it looked like the flood didn't happen.
Yeah.
I mean, like, yeah, you could absolutely just say, yeah, all of this evidence, it's fake because God just placed it there to make it look like it's old. You could do that. It's just anti-scientific. It's just doing science denial.
Yes, well, I haven't made that claim. You said that.
No, but you did just give an explanation for how the kangaroos got to Australia. You said, oh, maybe God just put them there.
I said it's a theory. It's not scientifically based on.
I mean, it's like a shower thought at best.
You told me, yeah, that's the way I'm saying. I said,
okay.
I have a theory. It's not scientific. There are many reasons.
Okay. Is there any justification for any of these theories that you have?
No, it's just a theory. You said a shower thought.
Yeah, shower thought.
That a shower thought that convinces at least me that there's no trouble with that, because yeah, you're saying that there's no kangaroos in Australia. To me, that doesn't disprove God. I mean, you have better arguments.
Well, no, but it kind of disproves a flood.
Well, to me, it doesn't, because of what I just told you. I mean, there are many possible ways.
Look, you could say that nothing. So I could offer you evidence after evidence after evidence that a flood didn't happen, and you could just always say, "Oh yeah, but God made it that way. God fixed it. God made it so that the evidence appears." You could always do that, and the point is that then you're just not thinking about this critically. You're just not taking the claim seriously because you're just ignoring all of the evidence that contradicts your worldview.
Very good. I'm not saying exactly that these arguments are not valid. I believe your arguments have a lot of validity, and that's why I'm enjoying this conversation with you. And I haven't left, because if I thought you were just full of BS or saying things that are not scientific, or at least this type of things, I wouldn't be taking you seriously. But I'm just saying that your arguments are not disproving my faith, and I'm giving you the reasons why I believe
they would, but your faith is too strong. Your faith is too strong. You can bend and twist and do a front flip to manipulate your beliefs in whatever way is necessary to come to whatever conclusion you need to avoid confronting the evidence that contradicts your faith.
Well, but having the theory that God sent animals to many various parts of the world after the flood is saying my faith is too strong.
Yeah, your faith is too strong. It can hold. Like, I'm sorry. Like you, if you, I don't know why you would believe something if you don't have evidence to support it.
Well, if you were to say that, I mean, a God who made the earth in a week, in 6 days, and yeah, he could have not sent animals to various parts of the world after the flood. I mean, that seems more unreasonable.
Well, you're right. A global flood is pretty unreasonable.
Again, do you believe that a God that could have sent... This is just logic at this point. Do you believe that a God that could have sent a flood to the world could have protected the earth from all the things that a flood could have caused?
If you accept a magic man, then yes, that magic man could solve the issue. I agree.
Okay, then how does the kangaroos in Australia disprove God?
Because you just have to invoke more magic. The point is look, if every single time I offered you evidence, you just said, oh, the magic man made it that way, then there's no evidence that could ever convince you, which means that you're being irrational.
Well, you're saying, I'm going to say that you're being very very intellectually honest, and you're giving very strong points. And I want to thank you for your patience, because I'm not that much of an expert on these topics. But here's the thing. I mean, we can also go to historical facts. I mean, if we say that this man came here to this world 2,000 years ago, and he had these disciples, and they wrote this about him, and those disciples had those disciples, and then they had him, and that, and them, and then they come down to us, who seems more unreasonable? The guy who has theories that don't contradict what the Bible says, but is trying to make it contradict the Bible, or the guy who has the history in his side?
I don't understand the question. Are we pivoting off the flood?
No, yeah, we are. Sorry, I'm gonna bring it back.
Okay. What was the point then? Because, like, generally, I don't think that the historical consensus is that Jesus rose from the dead.
Well, the historical consensus is that there was a man named Jesus Christ who lived approximately 2,000 years ago and was
well, there was a
crucified.
man named Yeshua who was labeled Christos by the Romans.
Well, yeah, that's just a name translation. That proves
Right,
nothing.
right. But the point is that, like, this says nothing about, like, I don't know how this informs on a flood existing. I don't know how this informs on a man rising from the dead. I don't know how this informs on the age of the earth.
Yes. I mean, if we're gonna talk just from a purely scientific perspective, of course, I'm gonna concede that you have what was the word? I'm sorry if I'm not being 100% clear. I'm a Spanish speaker.
You're fine.
Yeah, but if we're gonna say that from a purely scientific point of view, I'm gonna say you're right. But yeah, I mean, the arguments you've given me have not contradicted the logic that I've been using, because when I say that
the bare minimum of being logical, meaning following the inference rules of logic, like not contradicting yourself, the bare minimum of doing that doesn't make your claim true.
Yes, I'm not using it as evidence. I'm just using it as a...
So if you want to form beliefs, the reasonable thing to do is to form those beliefs in proportion to the evidence that exists for those beliefs. Right, that's the reasonable thing to do, but that's not what you're doing. You're not examining the evidence critically. What you're doing is you have a belief, and then you're examining the evidence in light of those beliefs, and then producing explanations for that evidence that conforms to your beliefs. This is kind of the definition of, what is it called? It's a type of cognitive bias, confirmation bias, I'm sorry.
Would you say somebody who does that, what you just said, to form beliefs and based of most of the evidence, would you say someone that does that could be wrong?
People can be wrong in principle, but they are less likely to be wrong than somebody who doesn't do that.
Yes, exactly. So from a statistical, from a scientific point of view, we could say that you're less likely to be wrong about the history of the world and this creation or its beginning than me, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But what about a historical point of view?
What about it?
Well, what I'm trying to say, that the mass transition of this man named Jesus, having his disciples and spreading a gospel throughout the world, and we having it up to this day, teaching these things about the young earth and yeah, pretty much the whole Bible. I mean, it doesn't. I don't see how it contradicts your science.
Well, look, if the claim is that the Earth is young, then that contradicts the scientific consensus. Yeah, it just explicitly does, because the scientific consensus is that the Earth is quite old.
Okay, but if I said to you, well, at this point, I can't use any argument based on biblical logic, because you're going to say Magic Man did it. I mean, now I can't say that maybe God created the world with an inherent age, just how he created the chicken and not the egg. I mean, you're not going to...
If he did that, then your God is a liar.
How?
Because your God is planting false evidence, right?
How exactly is he planting false evidence?
He's leaving behind evidence that indicates the Earth is 4.5 billion years old, even though it's not.
Well, he could have just created
false
the world.
evidence.
he could have just created the world as a simulation, and then at a certain point, I mean, as technically to use the word simulation, right? Not exactly a simulation, but he could have just created the world and let it simulate for a couple million years, and then start using
So
it.
what does it mean to create the world then? What's the difference between the created world and the simulated world?
Well, maybe I'm not being clear. I mean, maybe God just did what the first chapters of Genesis say, where he creates the world and how he did.
And then the on the sixth day, he created humans.
Well, I'm not sure if it was the sixth day. I'm gonna say yeah, and then then Adam and Eve lived thousands or millions of years in the garden, and then
doesn't it say that Adam lived like 900 something years? Isn't that in the Bible?
Yes, it does say that, but we're not certain if that is since his creation or after he sinned and his life started counting.
Yeah, okay. So then the claim would be that the Earth is billions of years old. It's just humans never left the garden until 6,000 years ago.
That's a that's a possibility.
But then you're not disagreeing with the prompt. The prompt is the Earth isn't 6,000 years old, and if you're saying the Earth is billions of years old,
I don't entirely disagree with the prompt. I was just listening to your conversation with the last guy and how you were talking about these subjects.
Okay, I mean, yeah. Look, like if you don't disagree with the prompt, then you don't disagree with the prompt, and that's fine, I guess.
Okay.
Thanks for being here, Johnny. Sorry, not Johnny, Jonathan.
Have a great day.
Likewise.
Thank you.
All right, we have some super chats to read, and then an announcement, and then we'll get back to the regular business. So, we have a whole bunch of jewels. Okay, I'm gonna Google what jewels are. What are YouTube jewels? Because I don't know. Okay, a YouTube jewel is... A YouTube jewel is viewers by jewels in bundles. But are these rubies? Are rubies the same as jewels? Because rubies are 1 cent each. I don't know what those are. I'm gonna keep popping them up though. Thank you guys. Josh often referred and cynical for the jewels. Now, Duke of Shostka sends 5 European bucks for being the only YouTuber to correctly pronounce my title. I proclaim Dr. Blitz an honorary fellow of the Grand Ducal Academy of Sciences and stuff. I'll take it. And then from Point with the 10 Canuck bucks, people should listen to Dr. Blitz more. He's the only person I watch that's been right more than he's been wrong. Keep it up, Dr. Blitz. I and many others enjoy your streams and content. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for the kind words. They're so kind. Dan sent 800 jewels. I think that's $8. So thank you. No, sorry, that's Dank, not Dan. Delsing with the 10 jewels, and then Dank again with the 800 jewels. Thank you so much. That's so sweet. I'll figure out what's going on there. By the way, another announcement for those who don't know, if you're watching on YouTube or on TikTok, if you become a member of the YouTube channel, either one, vertical or horizontal, they're both good, then you can get access to the not lucrative, then you can get access to my debate notes. They're here. These are the debate notes. You can get access to them. It's like $5 a month. I update them on the regular, so you'll probably want to stay a member or something like this. But yeah, so that's a thing. You can get access to them. They have all my notes for all my debates, sources, arguments, all that stuff. So consider it. All right, let's bring up another guest. All right, we have a lot of guests on the YouTube. Let us not do that though, because somebody was being very, very cruel, very, very weird. Sorry, I have to shut off the YouTube link for now. Let us talk to another guest. Standy.
Oh no, can you hear me?
Oh no, I can hear you. How's it going, Standy?
Oh hey, how's it going, brother?
I'm doing all right. How old do you think the Earth is?
So actually, before we get anything going, are you not talking to people who are like kind of more on your side? Because if that's the case, I can just leave.
Yeah, it does say join if you disagree.
Fair deal. My bad, man.
You're good. Take care, bud.
Take care, bud.
All right, let's talk to Ancient Atlanta. Ancient Atlanta, how's it going?
Oh. Holy shit, okay, I did not expect to actually get on here.
Well, here you are.
Wow. Whoa, it's actually, I did not expect your replies to be instant as if it was a phone call. I expected
TikTok's
live
really
chat
fast.
delays.
No.
Holy shit, okay, well. So a little backstory before we go into it. I come from 7 generations of pastors in my line, and I'm the first to not follow directly. So in a way, I don't disagree, but I would like to leave a message for those who have trouble, if that's okay.
As long as it's quick, that's fine.
Decades. Yes, that's quick. It's quick. So, all we know, all any of us can say, all Dr. Blitz can say, all I can say, all anyone can say, is that we are indeed present in this thing that all of us beg to try and figure out, right? All of us beg, right? We look down at our masses below us, and that's all we can confirm for sure. But we have been, for lack of a better word, blessed to be placed on a world that has the resources within it to be able to build machines that are of the materials of this universe that we've been placed in to observe itself as we participate within it, right? So if there is any form of God in any dialect or religion or anything that we can confirm, is that it has almost been given to us the tools to figure out the reasons for our existence. At that point, it's just up to the individual to decide if they are willing to trust the materials around us the same way we trust our phones to turn on every morning, the same way we trust our GPS to communicate with us. These were not made in a vacuum. These cannot be faked. I mean, if there's anything we can confirm, it's that not only do we come from generations, billions of generations of stellar material, but if you truly believe that we are of this universe in a way that we come from star stuff, then we are not only in this universe and of this universe, but the universe is like within you, you know? Like we are the universe experiencing itself through itself, becoming aware of its own existence. And it's up to us to decide how we write that. Are we going to stick with the ways of old, with the limited understanding we had of the universe, or are we going to move forward? Anyway, that's it. All
right. Well, thanks for being here, bud.
Of course.
Look, so I understand the drive to do that, especially like if he was hella indoctrinated as a kid, like 100%. And so of course the way that he talks is going to come out that way. I can understand the drive to want to like push a more humanistic message to a large audience. I can absolutely understand that. So, all right, let us bring up the next person, Mob Mellow Gaming. Mob Mellow, how's it going?
Good, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. How old do you think the Earth is?
I don't disagree with the prompt. I just I wanted to run it by you. Well, but I don't agree with a lot of your prompts because I am a Christian, but I do like the way you debate. I feel like you give everyone a fair chance. So
I appreciate
I'd like
that.
to commend you on that.
I appreciate that.
I believe. Oh yeah, no worries, man. I believe it's old. Like I believe the Earth was created because I obviously operate under the understanding that there was a creator, since that's my belief. But I believe it was created with age because you couldn't have created a world that was fresh, right? If you put people in a place with no developed, biodiversity, they wouldn't be able to survive the initial placement, right?
Well,
they would need an Earth that was already developed. Correct.
So to an extent, I see what you mean. Like you have to have plants that like, like if you created Adam and Eve like 30 years old or something like this, and there were no grown trees with fruits on them, then they would die in like 3 weeks, right? So like I can understand that. Here's the issue. There are things about our world that are not required for survival that indicate the Earth is actually much, much older. And if the idea is that, well, God kind of had to make the Earth appear older than it actually is for practical reasons because he wanted people to be able to sustain themselves, that explanation doesn't get off the ground when it comes to things like zircon crystals. And so it seems like God is just doing a deception for no reason, as opposed to having a good reason in the, you know, with regards to like trees and fruits and stuff.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I can see how it could look a bit like mischievous, like you're kind of trying to undermine the idea that the world's young by doing that. But like if you're, and I like to use the analogy of like when you build a house. Like if I built a house today and you went and measured the pieces from the house, like the wood or the tile, to see how old the house was, the house would actually appear to be older than the day I built it because the materials used predated the building.
But isn't that a problem
kinda,
then to then say that the rocks and stuff on the earth predated the creation of the earth? I mean, like, if you believe that, that's fine, I guess. But then it just seems like, well,
no,
is that stuff older?
Yeah, I can see how that brings up a problem because it's like, how do you create something old already? Or like, it's like you had a bin with old dirt that you were using to create the earth instead of just creating new dirt. So I do get that's kind of a bit of a logical, you know, issue. But that was just my take on it. That I've always thought was kind of interesting that the earth, just like Adam and Eve were created with age, that the earth was created with age. You know, and so that when you measured it, although the day he built it wasn't billions of years ago, the materials used could have been, you know, from billions of years ago.
Right, but then, like, it's a little weird, right? Because if the materials are billions of years old, then, like, what were they doing for 4.5 billion years old before God decided to assemble them into a planet, right?
Well,
it's just kind of weird.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Especially from someone on your side of the fence where, you know, you don't believe in the magic of the whole deal. But like if you tried to, you know, it's hard to really think about how you would create something from scratch. Like if, you know, that's something we really wouldn't understand how it was done. But I feel like if you had that ability, right, to create the whole earth, then you would definitely have the ability to make old dirt or make new dirt, or,
well,
you know,
I don't know what it means to make old stuff, right? Like you can make stuff you can make stuff with the appearance of age. And there's an analogy that somebody sent me a while ago that I'd love to use, but I can't think of it. You can definitely make something with the appearance of age. What you can't do is you can't make something that is actually older, right? That seems like the age is how long it's been since a thing existed.
Yeah, humanly that's possible as far as science can tell.
I don't even think it's possible, like, logically. Just like the age of something is defined to be how long it's been since that thing existed, right? And so I don't even think it makes sense to say that something could be created with age, because the thing's age is 0 when it was created.
Well, in a way, like, I mean, if you make a wooden bench out of a tree that's 100 years old and you measure just the materials, because we can't really measure the day the earth was created, since we don't really know how that was come about yet, right? So we're just measuring the materials used and using that to infer the age. So the same way as if you measured a wooden bench, you know, made up.
Right. No, but here's the issue. You're saying that he could have created it with age? Like he could have created like the rocks with age, right?
Yeah, the rocks had age before they were placed. Like they were.
Okay, but they existed. They existed for that whole time. Is that what you're saying?
No. Because like say in the beginning, right, nothing existed, and I'm this all-powerful being that can just poof things into existence. This is basically how, you know.
I don't know what it means to poof something into existence with age.
Well, I don't either, because I didn't.
I don't even think that makes sense. I think that's like a nonsense statement.
No, not in a logical scientific standpoint, but that's not my view. You know, that's not what I'm.
Your view is admittedly not logical. I wouldn't want to hold views that are not logical.
Well, I would say that a lot of religion doesn't follow logic, right?
So that should be a problem for you.
Well, only if I, you know, pre-assume that I understand all logic and meaning, and I don't.
I would think that you would want your views to be logically consistent, right?
Well, yes, the ones that I can conceivably, you know, enunciate, yes, but not the stuff I don't understand. I can't apply logic to something I don't, you know, comprehend. Like I do believe that a God created the world, right? But I can't logically write that down for you how that happened. I don't know.
Well, look. Maybe there's not an issue with God logically creating the world. Maybe there's not a logical issue there, but there is a logical issue with God creating the world with age. Like, tautologically, age is defined as how long it's been since a thing existed. And like, if you're saying that God can create a rock in a way that it has age, despite only being created a few moments ago, that seems illogical to me. This is just what the word means. The word just doesn't, the word age means how long it's been since it was formed or created, right?
Correct. Well,
so I don't, you're just saying that a thing has a thing's age is older than how long it's been since it was created. But that's not what age means.
Well, in a metaphysical sense, that's what I'm saying. But not, yes, in the physical world, that doesn't work. That's
just what the word means, right?
Well, yes, as far as we know it, yes, that's.
We made up the word. We decide what the word means.
Yeah. So, well, if that's
what do you mean, as far as we know it? What does this mean?
Because I don't have the logic to explain to you how that's created with age. But
I don't think. Okay, maybe we can do. We could just do like a syllogism or something, right? All right, let's see if we can lay this out explicitly. Do a syllogism real quick. I don't know if you can see this. All right, premise one. Age is the duration, or is the amount of time that an object has existed. Is that fair? I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, premise two. If God created an object, like a rock, then its age is the amount of time that that has elapsed since the object was created by God. So far, so good?
Yeah.
That's actually, we actually, yeah, okay. We actually don't need premise one then. So we agree with premise two. So, right, so we have age is the amount of time that an object has existed. If God created an object, well, actually, we should probably be a little bit more specific. We can say, then it has age. It has an age. That's probably true. If God creates an object, then it has an age.
I like that better.
Conclusion. If God created an object, like a rock, then its age is the amount of time that the rock has existed. Premise 4. If the rock's age... So do we agree with the conclusion? That just follows from premise 1 and premise 2.
Well, no, because that's where I start to see that I don't really know how to explain what I'm trying to say, is that right, how would you think God creates something, right? If you were the creator, how does that come about that you create something? You just decide.
I don't think that's relevant to the question, to the premises, right? Like, if premise 1 is true, if age is the amount of time that object has existed, we can put in the physical world, if you like. And if premise 2 is true, that if God created an object, then it has an age, we'll say an object in the physical world. Oops. Like a rock, then it has an age. If premise 1 and premise 2 are true, then it just follows. Then the conclusion just follows by substitution. If God created an object in the physical world, then its age is the amount of time that the rock has existed.
But does that still hold true when talking about a being that operates outside of time and the physical world?
Look, the conclusion follows from the two premises. if it's the case that age is the amount of time that an object has existed in the physical world, and if it's the case that when God creates an object, it has an age, then it follows that the age of the objects that God creates is the amount of time that the rock has existed in the physical world. That's required from P1. That's just that just follows from the first two premises, right?
Yeah,
Like,
no, I get, and that makes total sense. Like if I just
and this isn't like this is like a human logic and like God logic. Like this is just P1 is just the definition of the word, and it's all we're doing to get to the conclusion is we're substituting in the definition of the word into P2.
Right, but we're dealing with the idea that something outside of our conceivable world did this. So
it's irrelevant unless you think that God is outside of logic, in which case you were doing something that's illogical to begin with.
Well, I mean, creating the world from scratch from one being would be seemed as pretty illogical, right?
No, I wouldn't say so. Like that's not logically impossible.
How so?
There's no law of logic that it violates.
That we can just create matter out of nothing?
That might violate a physical law, but that has nothing to do with logic.
Well, if it violates any of our laws as we know to be science, then how can we defend it?
Those are not logical laws. Those are physical laws. There's a different category.
So can we defend it? Could we defend that point physically, but not logically?
Yeah, so you could say that God is not physical, that God is physically impossible, and that's probably true because God is kind of supposed to be supernatural to begin with.
Like
but this is a question not about physics. This is a question about logic.
Okay, then yes, yeah, you would be correct that that logic is in this is flawed. Yes.
The way in this argument, the logic in this argument is flawed.
I mean, no,
okay.
No, this corrects the flawed in the logic of my initial statement. Yes.
Okay, fair enough. So look, it seems like that. So God can't actually create things with age. God can create things with appearance of age. Unless God doesn't have to conform to laws of logic, which that's a problem, because then God could just
then
create a rock so heavy you couldn't lift it. You don't want to believe that. And so that means that God is just doing a deception. And sometimes the deception is good because it requires. Sometimes it's necessary to do a deception because you weren't just intending to deceive. You had to make something appear a certain way for practical reasons, and it just happens to be that it also looks this way. But there are things that have no practical application and yet appear very, very old.
Okay, and that's your defense for okay. What could you give me an example of one of those? Just out of curiosity.
Zircon crystals. So they're little tiny crystals of zirconium oxide, or zirconium, and it's a zirconium atom and a bunch of oxygen atoms. Anyway, zircon crystals. We can put a date on these based off of essentially radioactive decay. And the oldest one, I think the oldest one ever found on the surface of the Earth is like just shy of 4.5 billion years old.
And so its age and coupled with its insignificance, I'm assuming, is what you're using to defend that. Well, it's kind of a deception because we put stuff in there we didn't really need to put in there.
Yeah, I mean, so the thing is like these zircon crystals, like they're mostly just zircon, and then they have like a little bit of uranium in them when they form, just like a tiny amount of like impurities. And it just so happens to be that over time that uranium decays into lead. And the amount of lead in zircon crystals has no relevance to our lives. It doesn't like help us in any way. They're not used in any industry or in any industrial, like the lead is not used in any industrial process. We didn't even know that this existed until like, I don't know, 80 years ago.
So it's like a pointless DLC, basically.
Yeah. And so, like, why did he put it there unless the goal was to deceive us that the Earth was quite old?
Got you. Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay. Okay. Well, I can get behind that. I can see where that's a good argument. Well, I don't have anything else. I think that I kind of say what I wanted to. But I would like to thank you again. I think what you do here is very cordial. It's very, it's done in the right way. I feel like if a lot more people could debate this way, we could maybe get somewhere.
Hey, appreciate it.
So I'd like to thank you for that. Also like to throw in another little crazy theory that I have, because since I do believe that, that's the way it was done, at least to the best of my knowledge. I kind of believe too that the dinosaur bones were just placed there as like.
But that's a deception, right?
Like an Easter egg, right? Not every deception was bad, right? We've kind of had a lot of fun digging up dinosaur bones, so I don't think it was.
But like he could have placed them there, and then made them not appear old, right?
Yeah,
he could have just placed bones down there, but like make them have the radiocarbon, like the radio or the uranium lead dating. Like if you go to try to figure out how old they are using like these scientific methods, you would find that they're quite young. It would still be fun to dig them up, right?
Yeah. They don't have to appear old, yes, for it to be a good Easter egg. I see what you're saying. But I just think it's funny to think about. So I appreciate your time.
Thanks for being here, Bob Mello. Take care. All right, let's read some super chats. Also, I don't think that I have a way of like seeing when I have memberships that are sent. Maybe I do. Dank Bird Gang with the 800 joules twice. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And we got $5 from Michael Solis, a little support for educating. I appreciate you. This is the Gen Z heart, by the way. I was raised doing this, but honestly, I kind of like this one more. All right, let's talk to Get Well. Get Well, how's it going? Get Well, can you hear me? I can hear you. You were talking in the comments. Islam has answers for your questions. Islam fear no questions. Get Well, you have to talk. You have to use your... I can't hear his voice. I just heard him make a few sounds. Maybe he's a little nervous. I could understand if he's a little nervous. All right, I have a request. Okay, he's not showing up. Bummer. You have no fluent English, then why would you join? What? Like, I get it. Not everybody's fluent, but like... You've been listening, right? Milton Segura with the $2.80. I like the notebook idea. What notebook idea? Was there a notebook idea? Are you talking about like my notes? Like my debate notes? Wherever they are. These guys? Are we talking about these guys? All right, let's bring up Caton's Burgers. Oh, is this who I think it is?
What's up, Blitz?
Been a long time.
You remember me?
Yeah, I do. How could I not?
How you been, buddy?
I've been okay. How are you?
I just wanted to come in and say hi, man. Yeah, dude, reopen the truck, man. We've been busy as heck, dude.
I believe it, man. Food trucks are all the rage now. That's what you're still doing, right?
Yes, sir. Busy.
Well, I'm glad you've been busy. Anything you want to talk about, or you just wanted to stop in and say hi?
I just wanted to stop in and say hi, man. We've always been real cordial with each other. It's good to see you again, brother. I'll stop by later and talk.
Yeah, sure. Hit me up in the DMs. I'd love to hear how things are going, man. And hey, do you want to shout out your food truck? There's like 1,000 people watching.
Cotton's Burgers. I'm a food truck in Maurice, Louisiana. If you're ever in the Maurice, the Lower Lafayette area, come check me out. I'm in a food truck park in Maurice. It's hard to miss. It's right off the highway. Blitz, if you're ever in that area, stop by and get a burger, brother, on me.
Will do. Thanks for being here, brother. Have a good one, okay? He and I go way, way back. So there's a story there. He's a Christian. I think he's even a creationist, if I remember correctly. But he's like a super chill guy, and you know, he's just nice, and he's a lovely guy to talk to. So you know, anyway, he's a great dude. So if you're ever in the Maurice, Louisiana area, go check out his food truck, okay? All right, we got another super chat from Game Master Flash with the $10. I love when they fall back on God's real. He's just tricking you by placing false evidence. That's the problem, isn't it? Like, that is a real problem for the view. Like, that's the issue. Because if he's tricking you, then he can't be all good. All right, let's talk to Ronald. Ronald, how's it going?
What's going on, brother? Sitting around here trying to have some sort of conversation. People be talking about the church, be lying about science, brother.
Okay, and how old do you think the Earth is?
It's gonna be about what year we in? We're in 2025, so maybe a couple years older than that.
Ronald.
Dr. Blitz.
Ronald.
Dr. Blitz.
I can hear the giggle.
There ain't no giggle, brother.
There's a little bit of a giggle there, brother.
There ain't no giggle. This is real serious shit, brother.
All right, Ronald. I think that was Mike Brigandy. Like, I think that was Mike Brigandy. Did he say free burger if I mentioned Dr. Blitz? I don't think he said free burger. I think that was Mike Brigandy. Yeah. By the way, so there's somebody who sent me a really good analogy for the deception thing on Discord a while ago. I think it was on Discord. Maybe it was on TikTok. It was a really good analogy. I think it involved toys or something like this. But if you sent that to me on Discord, send it to me again, because I can't find it and I can't remember exactly what the analogy was, and I'd really, really love to hear it again. All right, let's bring up another guest. It's a really good analogy. Orielco, long time no see.
Hello, long time no talking to you as well.
Well, it hasn't been that long. All right, so you think the Earth is quite young, yeah?
Yes, exactly, quite a billion picoseconds, right? Or heptaseconds since we have talked, so that's a long seconds, right?
Yeah, many seconds. Wait a minute, so can you remind me of your position?
Yes, so I think it's 6,000 light years old, right?
Oh my god, it's this guy. Yep, I remember.
Distance.
I remember this. Right, light years is a distance. You think it's 6,000 light years old. I still don't know what that means. Do you want to do it again?
Yes, right?
Okay.
So light is a constant, right? Because with multiple things, right? With four effective
light,
no, I
the speed of light is constant in a vacuum, yeah.
No, I mean the spectrum that it affects. Electric spectrum, magnetic spectrum, strong force, and the weak force, right?
Sorry, what's the question?
The kind of force that it affects. Light.
So light only affects things with charge.
So let's talk about photon itself, right?
Yeah.
So the maximum speed that a photon travels is 300 something, right?
300,000 kilometers per second or so, yes.
So once it travels, let's say one electron for some reason jumps in, right, in that exact time frame.
It like jumps in the way?
So have you seen the equation where if you do infinite 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, you come to negative 1 over 12? Have you seen that?
Yes, I have.
Do you know the premise of that equation?
Yes, I do. It's called...
What is the premise?
It's called analytic continuation of the Riemann zeta function.
Oh, Okay, so, and what is that exactly used for?
Are you asking what the equation is used for? It shows up in string theory. It's like a way to do renormalization. It's called zeta renormalization. But I haven't seen it used for anything else. What does this have to do with the age of the Earth?
So that's containing basically infinite into a finite number,
no,
right?
so like
called...
it's not true that like 1 + 2 + 3, etc. isn't actually equal to minus a 12th. The point is that there is a sense of equal that you can use that has mathematical value, but it's not saying that infinity is equal to minus a 12th.
Yes, because we divide our day into 24 hours. That's basically what it's saying, right?
No, it has nothing to do with that.
Infinitely. That's what I'm telling you, is what I'm saying.
You're telling me what? That the
We
minus
use
the 12
24
has to do
hours.
with the 24-hour day?
Yes. Half the day.
Okay. So
So
what do you
half the
take of the
day
fact?
is
What do you take of
basically-
the fact that if you take one and if you take one and then you subtract one and then you add one and then you subtract one forever, you get like a half?
And okay. How's that? Yeah, if you can connect it biblically, yes. Something that should be related to biblically, right?
Well, look, it's the exact same phenomenon that happens for the 1 + 2 + 3, etc., equaling minus a 12th. It's the exact same phenomenon, mathematically anyway. So it seems like you're ascribing value to the minus a 12th just because 24 and 12 have like something in common.
Yes, and 6,000 years old, right? So if you go by that logic,
What's 6,000 years old though? I don't understand. What is happening? What does any of this have to do with the age of the Earth?
So so infinite is basically double of 12, right? 1 divided by 12, which is half of 6. Double of
12
6
is
12,
half
right?
of 6. Sorry,
Double of
12 is twice 6, yes.
Yes. So, and twice of basically infinite sequence of what we get is basically a day, right? Biblically. Mm-hmm.
What? Can you repeat that?
So somehow, right, infinite number of sequences, they have to be contained into light, right? Once you start measuring light, at first, like it could be infinite, but you do get a finite
What's infinite
sequence
about
right
light?
here.
None of the Riemann zeta renormalization doesn't have anything to do with light. It doesn't have anything to do with the speed of light. What is happening?
Yeah, but it is contained in our system, right? It has a finite.
What's contained? What does infinity
So
have
in
to
our
do with
universal
light?
system-
And what does the minus a 12 have to do with the age of the Earth?
Not the age of the Earth, but that has to do with 1 day, is what I'm saying, right?
What does that have to do with 1 day? Lots of numbers can factor through 24. 24 is a perfect number. It factors through a lot of numbers.
Yes, it does, but when we go by the biblical calendar, right, and the Bible says we're 6,000 years old, right? And what I'm arguing for is if we go by infinite point, right, infinitely, the only thing we'll reach the conclusion is 1 over 12, negative 1 over 12, right?
No.
Which is...
infinity is not equal to minus 1/12.
Or like... So now you not 1/12, right? It's 24 because... Not 24, right? Because we're still in the 7th day. But overall, we do get somewhere around 6,000, right?
What?
Or multiple of 6.
What are you talking about?
So negative 1 over 12, that's a multiple of 6, right?
Negative 1 over 12 is not a multiple of anything. Multiples are integers.
I don't think you really get. So if you,
You're
what
right,
we're
I
doing
don't
is
really get it.
basically we divide a day into 12 hours, right? Or 24 hours, right? But technically we divide a day into 12 hours and a night into 12 hours.
Except
and
that's
that
not what we
equation is
do.
basically saying,
But that's not
hey,
what we do,
this
right?
is the way to divide a day into 12 hours. That's what
but
the
we
equation
don't
is
divide
saying.
it. We don't divide the day into 12 hours and the night into 12 hours, right? That's just not what we do.
But that's what our intent is, right? Is that
No.
our intent or no? I'd
No.
love to be like I don't think
know.
you know what
I
intent
don't know
is.
how you would figure out what the intent was, but I'm pretty sure the intent was to have equal length hours so that we can,
Yes,
use clocks
12 hours a
effectively.
day. Yes,
No,
but
not
then
12
negative
hours.
came
It's
in,
not.
right?
It's not 12 hours a day and 12 hours of night, though. I don't know what part of the world you live in, but unless you live on actually, unless you live on the equator, that's just not true, right?
Yes, but the math, right?
What math?
That's math.
There's been no math happening here. There have been a lot of numbers and no math.
What I'm saying is that's -1/12 equation of math, right? That's math that is used for division of the day. Is what I'm saying.
No, there are no negative
Right? Same
numbers
like
used in
biblical
the
day
division
on
of
the
there are
first
no
day.
negative numbers used in the division of the day.
Negative number, but how?
Yeah, there are no negative numbers appearing when discussing how to divide the day, right?
What do you mean by that?
Where are the negative numbers involved when trying to figure out how to divide the day?
In clocking things?
Negative numbers? Where?
Yes, because electromagnetics, right? All of those work on AC. AC is negative.
What does that have to do with clocking things? What does that have to do with the day?
You said where's negative numbers used, right? Negative numbers.
I asked
is used
where are
clock
negative
all
numbers
these
used
what
in
we're saying
dividing
is.
up the day?
So do you know what time it is without watching the clock?
No.
So the only thing you know is if it's daytime or if it's nighttime, right?
Sure.
Okay, so and the math to divide that is basically the equation, right? That you stated, that I stated.
No.
Don't know exactly the
No,
name.
it's unrelated.
They are related because that's what happened on the first biblical day, right? Separation from day and night. Or light
I don't
to
think you're
darkness.
trolling me.
I'm not really trolling you. The Bible states that, right? And that's what I'm defending.
The Bible doesn't say anything about minus a 12th. Doesn't say anything about electromagnetic waves. Doesn't say anything about any of this.
But it proves that the separation of day, right? Day and night, which we divide, which happened on the first day, right? And which happens every day, right? And because every day is first day, right? And it's divided into 12 hours, which is proven by...
But day and night are not divided into 12 hours. Right? Like, that's not how long the night is.
Yes, so that's where eve comes in, right? And that's where evening comes in.
Eve and evening are not related words.
They're literally same.
They're in English, maybe. Do you know what the etymology for the word Eve is? We can look it up if you want. I think the original word is chava. Yeah, okay, that's right. So the Hebrew word is chava. I think it's spelled with a chet. Is it spelled with a chet or a chav? Let me look up the actual Hebrew spelling. Yeah, it's chava, right? And the word Eve, meaning like nighttime, comes from Old English efen, which comes from Proto-Germanic ebando, which comes from which is of uncertain origin. So the words are unrelated.
So negative itself, right, comes from
No.
Newton, who was gay.
Orialco, no. You have to acknowledge that you were wrong.
No, I'm absolutely correct.
The origin of Eve for nighttime
origin
and the
of
origin of
negative.
the name Eve are unrelated.
Yes, evening, right? All of these are British term, and they were really, and we're all into KJV Bible, right? And that's the term where
they are unrelated. Evening is unrelated to the word, to the name Eve.
So So at that point, right? I
Like
don't
one
think
is
even
Hebrew in origin, and one is like
Norway does not have evening. Or
North
they don't
Germanic
even,
in
I
origin.
don't even know what they have, right? They don't even have day or night. What they have, right?
I'm not
A
talking
really,
about
really
the
bad
English
country.
words. I agree the English words Eve and Eve are the same, but they have completely distinct origins. Why are we caring about how the English pronounce something when
some
the people
don't
who are writing
experience
this...
evening.
What
Okay?
does that
Some
mean?
countries
Evening is
don't
the
experience
evening
morning.
is the period after afternoon and before night. What do you mean they don't experience evening?
That means like it's forever a night or forever day.
There's nowhere on Earth that experiences that.
That there is, and
No,
Norway,
there are
right?
places
There
on
are
Earth
some
that
parts.
have winter nights and summer days, meaning that, you know, if you're north of the Arctic Circle, depending on how far north, you will have some period of time where the sun is always below the horizon, and some period of time where you have some period where the sun is always above the horizon. But during the fall, you will always have regular days, regardless of where you are, or during the fall and spring in particular. Like around the equinox, you will always have days where there's morning, noon, afternoon, evening, night.
Is that true for all the
That's everywhere on Earth.
land configuration historically too?
Probably
not, right?
True for the land. What?
So if we trace back the history of the land itself.
Yeah, there's nowhere on Earth. There's no, like, whether it's in the ocean or not
each
the ocean. There's
continent is
nowhere.
moving, right?
There's nowhere on Earth, whether ocean or land, where there is never evening or morning. There's nowhere on Earth that doesn't happen.
Now you're bullshitting because that Bible states something different, right? And you're going against the Bible, even Hebrew Bible.
Where does the Bible say that there are places that never experience evening?
I mean, that's what the whole Bible is about, right? Because there are places like gay people, which there are people who are gays, right? And I didn't think they existed, right, at one point, but they did, right?
There are people who
just
are
like
gay?
lesbians too.
What are we doing with this? Where are we going?
So what I'm trying to say is that different kinds of people exist, right, who are not aware, right, of different things, right? Just like some people don't know evening, some people don't know morning, right? Some people.
Everybody knows evening and morning.
With current configuration of landmass, yes.
Regardless of where the land is on the Earth, everybody knows what evening and morning are.
You know, Australia moves 5 feet each year, and they have to adjust.
That's
their
unrelated
GPS
to the fact that everywhere on Earth experiences evening at least twice a year. Yeah.
Right now, yes. I'm not arguing if they do.
Everywhere on Earth,
right
not just the land, also the water.
So you know the whole history of Earth to examine, hey,
every single location on Earth on the equinoxes experiences a 12-hour day, 12-hour night.
On the top,
That's
right?
the whole business with the equinoxes. No, it's also at the north and at the south.
No, they don't.
Yeah, they do. That's what the equinox is.
Do you have the data?
Google what an equinox is.
Because it's specific.
Google is
like
free.
A Pacific Ocean, right? So nobody has
nothing
the
to
data
do with
on the
the
top and the
oceans.
bottom. So they really have either sun, night, or sun at the same time. So they really don't experience them at all.
On the ocean, it doesn't experience time?
No, so on the top. Right, so they do experience time, but they rotate
on the day of an equinox, daytime and nighttime are of approximately equal.
Till morning till afternoon. That's it.
On the day of an equinox, daytime and nighttime are of approximately equal duration all over the planet.
Nope.
Source? Because my source is Wikipedia. Do you not like Wikipedia?
My source is landmass movement, right? And
it has nothing to do with where the land is. The land is where the land is irrelevant. Equinoxes are defined to be the. Do you need a diagram? I think you need a diagram. I'm going to draw you a diagram.
Sure. Search for a globe. Yes.
And I'm just going to draw you a diagram. Is that okay? Can I draw you one?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I didn't think that we would go into diagram territory on this day, but here we are. Okay, so on the equinox, I'm going to draw the Earth as a blue, I want to draw the Earth as a blue circle. Right, here's a blue circle. So usually, let me draw some green squiggles just to make everybody happy. Green squiggle there, and a green squiggle here. And then, there's a green squiggle over, I don't know how to draw all this stuff. Green squiggle, fine. Okay, that's the Earth, right? So usually, when you're not on an equinox, right,
How does the Earth rotate? Please
about
tell
an
me.
axis. We're getting there. So usually, like on the winter solstice, on the summer solstice, the sun rays, so let's say that's the axis, the sun rays come in this direction. And so you can have areas up top here and areas at the bottom here, north and south, mind you, such that the top bits will not get, this would be the winter equinox for the northern hemisphere, by the way. The North Pole will not get any sun during the winter. The South Pole will get lots of sun and only sun during the winter, right? That's because the Earth is rotating about this axis. However, during the equinox, if I want to keep the sun coming in from the left, I have to change the orientation of the axis. During the equinox, the orientation of the axis is effectively different relative to the orientation of the sun's rays. And so, go in the middle. And so if the sun is still coming this way, then regardless of where you are on Earth, you will have a 24 or a 12-hour day and a 12-hour night.
Yeah, but our tilt is a little bit tilted, right?
No, so
that doesn't make
on
sense.
the equinox, the Earth is effectively tilted 0 degrees. It's not tilted towards the sun, and it's not tilted away from the sun. That's what the equinox is. It's the part of the orbit where the tilt is perpendicular to the direction that the sun is in. I'll draw a more detailed picture.
Like that's an exception, right?
This is, which means that so it happens twice a year. So this happens twice a year that there is
a day, right? Like a bum.
So we agree that nowhere on Earth is there a place that does not receive at least 2 evenings every year.
Yes. So if
I'm glad we're in
you
agreement.
Sleep for like a bum for 2 days, right? Then you agree that for at least average, right, is that some people really don't, right? They could experience like pandas, right? They only go on heat for like 2 days a year. That's it, right? If you miss those 2 days, like your whole panda lineage is gone. You do know that, right?
Sorry, y'all. I would love to say that he's trolling. I don't think he's actually trolling. Right? Like, I don't... Like, do you guys think that he is trolling? Like, I'm willing to take opinions here. But, like, I don't know. It just seemed very confused. Anyway, let's read some super chats. So, Mindas, thank you for the 2 European bucks. You're my fave from the Unholy Trinity. Don't tell them. Oh, I'll keep it secret. Necktooth, I turned into Mike Tyson for a second there. Necktooth and 30 joules. Necktooth, thank you for the 30 joules. And 30 joules. And 30 joules. And then Tim Bimbadil with the $5. This just in, the entire point of the Bible is that some places don't know evening. If you think it's about Jesus, you're missing the whole point. I guess I'm missing the whole point. And then but Michael Solis says, definitely trolling with the $2. Maybe he is. Who knows? I don't know. I really just, it's really hard for me to tell. Maybe my Trolldar just needs to be improved. Look, y'all, I have no idea what the jewels even are either. So Molly has informed me that it's like, Molly has told me that this is like a way for YouTube to take money from people. So don't send jewels. Apparently, like, I get way less of what you send. I think that YouTube keeps 30% of super chats, which is already not great, but it's better than what they're doing with jewels, I guess. By the way, I do have some Cash Apps, and I do have a few Cash Apps and a Buy Me a Coffee to read through. So let me take a look at that really quick. So we have $10 from Shay for welcome back. Thank you so much, Shay, as always. I didn't forget about it this time. We have $10 from Grimlock for no cut for YouTube. Stay safe and hydrated. I will. Thank you, Grimlock. And we also have, let me make sure that I didn't miss any. We also have someone sent me $5 on Buy Me a Coffee for love what you do, man. I appreciate you. I don't know who that person was, but I appreciate it. Now, before we end the live, because I'm going to end the live, it's around that time. By the way, Arizona is on, Arizona does not do daylight savings time. So my live streams will now be an hour later for everybody outside of Arizona because daylight savings time just happened. So I'm now 2 hours behind Eastern rather than 3 hours. So keep that in mind. It is time to end the live. However, remember, if you want to join, if you want to get access to my new thingamajig, it's actually not new. I've been using this for a while. I just haven't actually made it public. Let me show you guys again. If you guys want access to my debate notes, and look, they are just notes. They're notes for myself. I wrote them up. They're, you know, there's nothing official or formal about them, but they're just, it's basically a collection of sources and notes and, you know, arguments and stuff. Like under theism, you have a whole bunch of arguments here. If you want access to this stuff, the way to do it, the way to get it is to either A, be a Patreon. I think I'm going to make it available on Patreon as well. It's not there yet, but it will be available on Patreon at some point. Or join, become a member on YouTube. It's like $4 or $5 or something like this. And then you just get a link. And then you can always look at it, use it in your own debates if you want. Yeah, so, you know, not necessary if you don't want it, but if you do want it, you should have access. Somebody says access denied. Is the link, if it's not working, send me a DM or something like that. I just started this out. I don't know, like, there should be a link on YouTube that you can get access to it. I don't know if it's working. We'll try it out. If it's not, I'll fix it. Don't worry, and you're not going to lose access or anything. Anyway, I'm going to end the live here. Thank you guys so much for being here. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for some Ask a Physicist. Take care, everybody.